In the morning, on day 75 of the war, the Iranian frigate Iris Sahand fires on a South Korean cargo ship, not on a U.S. Navy vessel, not on a British destroyer, on the MV Busan carrier, a South Korean-flagged cargo ship that has been cleared by Iran's own transit authorization list since day 61 of the war, a vessel whose flag Iran specifically permitted, whose company paid the coordination fees Iran required, whose transit window was approved through the Pakistani intermediary channel 4 days ago. The MV Busan carrier is not an unauthorized vessel in the Strait of Hormuz. It is the most authorized civilian vessel in the strait this morning, and the Iris Sahand fires one 76mm naval gun round across its bow at 8:19 and 09 seconds, and then a second round into its forward superstructure at 8:19 and 31 seconds. Without warning and without hailing and without any communication on any frequency. The second round starts a fire in the Busan carrier's forward cargo hold. The crew of 24 South Korean sailors is attempting to suppress it at 8:19 and 44 seconds when the ship's captain sends his distress transmission. Mayday. Mayday. MV Busan carrier. Iranian warship firing. Forward cargo fire. Crew attempting suppression. Position follows. The distress transmission reaches USS Nitsa at 8:19 and 51 seconds. Commander Aaron Webb reads it for 3 seconds. He looks at the Iris Sahand's position on his surface radar, 4.1 nautical miles northeast, running on a course that has already taken it past the MV Busan carrier after firing. Not attacking further, having made its point. Webb looks at the Busan carrier's position, holding position in the northern corridor. Forward fire visible on infrared from Nitsa's position. He looks at HMS Diamond 1.4 nautical miles to his starboard. He picks up the direct circuit to Captain James Hartley at 8:20 in the morning. James, Sahand just fired on the Busan carrier. South Korean flagged. Iran authorized transit. 2 rounds, forward fire. I am moving to assist. Are you with me? Hartley answers in 2 seconds. We are with you. Moving. Both destroyers turn toward the MV Busan carrier at 8:20 and 14 seconds, running at maximum speed. 4.9 nautical miles at 31 knots, 9 minutes. Webb picks up the circuit to Callaway at 8:20 and 19 seconds. Sir, Iris Sahand fired on MV Busan carrier at 8:19. South Korean flagged Iran authorized vessel, 2 76mm rounds. Forward cargo fire. Crew attempting suppression. Nitsa and Diamond moving to assist. Iris Sahand is withdrawing northeast at 22 knots. Request weapons free on the Sahand if it fires again, and request clarification on ROE for engaging an Iranian naval frigate during a ceasefire, when that frigate just fired on a permitted civilian vessel. Callaway reads it in 4 seconds. He picks up the CENTCOM circuit. CENTCOM comes back in 31 seconds. Assist the Busan carrier. Weapons free on the Sahand if it fires again. Do not pursue the Sahand. The ceasefire status is being assessed at the highest level. Hold the situation until Washington tells you what the Sahand firing means diplomatically. Webb acknowledges. He does not like hold the situation as an operational instruction when the Busan carrier is on fire and 24 South Korean sailors are fighting it with fire hoses. But hold the situation means do not shoot the Sahand unless it shoots again and the Sahand is withdrawing northeast at 22 knots and has not fired a 3rd time. He can live with hold the situation for the 9 minutes it takes to reach the Busan carrier. To understand what the Iris Sahand did at 8:19 in the morning on day 75 of the war, you need to understand what firing on an Iran-authorized South Korean cargo ship actually means as a strategic statement. Because the Sahand did not fire on an enemy, it fired on a friend. South Korea is one of the 12 nations whose vessels Iran specifically permitted to transit the strait as part of the confidence-building framework that Iran's own foreign ministry negotiated. South Korea's government has been one of the most vocal supporters of the Pakistani mediation process. South Korea sent a diplomatic note to Tehran 3 days ago, expressing support for a negotiated resolution. The MV Busan carrier's transit was specifically authorized because Seoul is one of the countries Iran wants to keep neutral and grateful and supportive of Iran's position in the negotiations. And the Iris Sahand fired 2 76mm rounds at it at 8:19 in the morning without warning and set its forward cargo hold on fire. The message is not aimed at Seoul. Seoul is the medium. The message is aimed at Washington and Islamabad and every capital that has been telling Iran that if it cooperates with the confidence-building framework, the negotiations will produce a deal that Iran can accept. Iran's answer at 8:19 in the morning is 2 76mm rounds into the forward superstructure of the most symbolically cooperative civilian vessel in the strait. The message is that Iran's cooperation is conditional on Washington cooperating back, and that an authorization list is not a guarantee, and that a confidence-building framework is only as strong as Iran wants it to be on any given morning. And that on this particular morning, with Trump saying the ceasefire is on massive life support and the deal called totally unacceptable, and Iran saying it will never bow, The Sahan's captain decided the confidence-building framework was not worth protecting for one more day. The Sahan did not fire on the Busan carrier to hurt South Korea. It fired to demonstrate that Iran controls the strait, that authorized or unauthorized is a distinction Iran makes, and that Iran can unmake it. With 76mm rounds at 8:19 in the morning, 8:20 in the morning, USS Nitsa and HMS Diamond. 9 minutes to the Busan carrier. Webb has the Iris Sahand withdrawing on his surface radar at 8:20 and 44 seconds. 22 knots northeast, pulling away from the Busan carrier, pulling away from Nitsa and Diamond. Not attacking again, not accelerating, not turning. Withdrawing at 22 knots on a course that will take it back to Bandar Abbas in approximately 40 minutes. Webb watches it for 4 seconds. He looks at the Busan carrier ahead, infrared showing the forward fire clearly. He picks up the Busan carrier on the bridge-to-bridge at 8:21 in the morning. MV Busan carrier. This is USS Nitsa. We are 9 minutes out. Give me your status. The Busan carrier captain responds immediately. Nitsa, this is Busan carrier. Forward cargo fire in holds 2 and 3. Crew attempting suppression with fixed system. Fixed system is not controlling the fire. We may need external assistance. No crew casualties yet. 24 crew all accounted for. Fire is spreading toward hold 4. Webb looks at the 9 minutes on his clock. Hold 4 is the aft section of the forward cargo area. If the fire reaches hold 4 before they have external suppression, the Busan carrier is going to lose the entire forward section. He picks up the circuit to Hartley. James. Busan carrier's fixed system is not controlling the forward fire. They need external suppression before it reaches hold 4. I want to put a damage control team on board the moment we reach them. Hartley comes back in 2 seconds. Diamond has a damage control team ready. We will go alongside port. You take starboard. Webb acknowledges. He picks up the Busan carrier again. Busan carrier, this is Nitsa. We are coming alongside starboard at arrival. Diamond alongside port. Have your crew concentrate on hold 4 and keep hold 3 watered down until we get our teams aboard. You have 8 minutes. The Busan carrier captain answers in 3 words. Understood. Thank you. At 8:22 and 09 seconds, 2 Iranian F-14 Tomcats go active on bearing 031. Both AWG-9 fire control radars simultaneously. Already locked. Already committed. Already targeting USS Nitsa and HMS Diamond. Park had the thermal contacts on bearing 031 since 8:14 in the morning from USS Gonzalez's passive sensor display 22 nautical miles south. She flagged them at 8:16. She has been building SM-6 solutions against both contacts since 8:16. 6 minutes of solution building. She transmits to the formation circuit at 8:22 and 11 seconds. 2 seconds after the A9S go active. All formation units, this is Gonzalez EW, 2 F-14 contacts bearing 031A, WG-9 active. Phoenix missiles already off the rails targeting Nitsa and Diamond. I have SM-6 solutions built against both contacts since 8:16. I am engaging now. She does not ask for authorization. The weapons-free order from CENTCOM at 8:22 and 44 seconds of the previous day's engagement is still in effect. She fires the first SM-6 at 8:22 and 14 seconds, 3 seconds after the 89s went active, from 22 nautical miles. The SM-6 solution she has been building for 6 minutes is the cleanest solution she has ever launched. The SM-6 reaches the first F-14's Phoenix missile at 8:22 and 44 seconds. The SM-6 detonates 11 meters from the Phoenix airframe. First Phoenix destroyed, she fires the second SM-6 at 8:22 and 19 seconds targeting the second F-14's Phoenix. Same quality solution. 6 minutes of building. The second SM-6 reaches the second Phoenix at 8:22 and 51 seconds. The SM-6 detonates 14 meters from the second Phoenix airframe. Second Phoenix destroyed. 2 Phoenix missiles fired at USS Nitsa and HMS Diamond, both destroyed by SM-6s from USS Gonzalez, 22 nautical miles away, before either missile reached 1.5 nautical miles of either target. Webb and Hartley never had to break from their approach to the Busan carrier. They never had to slow down. They never had to do anything except receive Park's transmission at 8:22 and 11 seconds and keep running toward a burning civilian ship at maximum speed. Park transmits to the F-35C cap section at 8:22 and 54 seconds. Dragon 2, this is Gonzalez. 2 Phoenix missiles destroyed. 2 F-14 contacts still airborne bearing 031 having fired and aggressing. Request weapons free to engage. The CENTCOM authorization arrives through Callaway at 8:23 and 09 seconds. Gonzalez weapons free on F-14 contacts. Dragon 2 weapons free. The lead F-35C fires 2 AIM-120 DAMRAAMS at 8:23 and 14 seconds. His wingman fires 1 second later. Both F-14S are aggressing at Mach 2.1. Their threat warning systems are dark. They have been dark since the 89s went active at 8:22 and 09 seconds. There is nothing behind them their sensors can find. Nothing except 4 AMRAAMs already running at Mach 4. The first F-14 crew gets 1 second of warning. The first AMRAAM arrives at 8:23 and 29 seconds. The lead F-14 comes apart at 8,000 feet. No ejection, no distress call. 1 Tomcat gone. The second AMRAAM arrives 5 seconds later. The second F-14 comes apart at 6,000 feet. 2 Tomcats gone. The air threat is clear at 8:23 and 34 seconds. 1 minute and 25 seconds after the 89s went active. From 22 nautical miles, Park stopped both Phoenix missiles and both F-35Cs, killed both F-14ES before Webb and Hartley had to do anything except keep running toward the Busan carrier. USS Nitsa comes alongside MV Busan carrier starboard at 8:29 in the morning, 9 minutes and 14 seconds after Webb turned to assist. HMS Diamond alongside port at 8:29 and 31 seconds. The damage control teams are aboard the Busan carrier at 8:30 in the morning. Forward cargo fire contained at 8:41 in the morning. 11 minutes of combined British and American damage control alongside a South Korean ship that Iran's own authorized list said was supposed to be safe. The fire is out at 8:44 in the morning. No crew casualties. 24 South Korean sailors alive. Hold 4 intact. The Busan carrier is still operational. In Seoul, the South Korean government receives the engagement summary at 8:47 in the morning. The Iris Sahand, the fire, USS Nitsa, and HMS Diamond arriving alongside. The British and American damage control teams, the fire contained, the crew alive. The South Korean Foreign Ministry transmits a statement at 8:51 in the morning. 1 sentence. South Korea thanks the United States and United Kingdom for their immediate assistance to the MV Busan carrier and calls on Iran to explain the attack on an authorized civilian vessel. In Tehran, the Iranian Foreign Ministry is already processing. Araghchi calls the IRGC Naval Command Chief of Staff at 8:22. He calls the Pakistani intermediary at 8:31. He transmits a statement at 8:49 in the morning. The Iris Sahan's engagement of the MV Busan carrier at 8:19 was not authorized by the Iranian government or the Foreign Ministry. The Iranian government condemns the action. The responsible commander will be held accountable. The confidence-building framework remains Iran's position. Callaway reads the Iranian statement at 8:51 and 44 seconds. He reads it for 6 seconds. Third unauthorized IRGC action in 5 days. PGF-114. Mohammadi, now the Sahand. He picks up the circuit to CENTCOM. Sir, the Sahand fired on a permitted South Korean vessel at 8:19. Foreign Ministry is saying unauthorized for the 3rd time in 5 days. Sir, at some point, unauthorized stops being an explanation and starts being a pattern. I need guidance on whether we are treating the next unauthorized IRGC action as an act of the Iranian government, regardless of what Tehran says afterward. CENTCOM comes back in 19 seconds. Noted, hold position. Washington is processing. In the Oval Office at 8:54 in the morning, Trump reads the engagement summary and the Iranian Foreign Ministry statement for 11 seconds. He puts the summary down. He picks up the phone to his national security advisor. 3 words. How many times? The National Security Advisor answers in 1 sentence. Sir, this is the 3rd unauthorized IRGC action in 5 days. PGF-114 on day 74. Mohammadi on day 70. The Sahand this morning. Trump is quiet for 4 seconds. Then he says 1 sentence. Find out if they are actually unauthorized, or if unauthorized is just what Tehran says after they fire. The engagement summary Park writes at 9:01 in the morning is the most specific she has ever written, because specificity is the only thing she can control when the question of whether unauthorized actually means unauthorized is being answered in a room she cannot see. 2 F-14 thermal contacts detected bearing 031 at 8:14. SM-6 solutions built from 8:16. A WG-9 active at 8:22 and 09 seconds. Both Phoenix missiles destroyed by SM-6. 2 F-14S destroyed by CAP section. Nitsa and Diamond reached Busan carrier at 8:29. Fire contained at 8:41. No Busan carrier casualties. She adds 4 lines that are not part of the standard format. The Iris Sahand fired on an Iran-authorized South Korean civilian vessel. This is the 3rd IRGC action in 5 days that Tehran has described as unauthorized. The ceasefire is surviving these actions by the specific mechanism of each one being individually disowned. At some point, the pattern of disowning individual actions becomes indistinguishable from authorizing them. The ceasefire is not on massive life support anymore. It is on whatever comes after massive life support. The MV Busan carrier continues its transit at 9:04 in the morning, escorted by USS Nitsa and HMS Diamond. The ship that Iran's frigate fired on at 8:19 in the morning with a 76mm gun because the confidence-building framework was not worth protecting for one more day. The ship whose forward cargo fire the US and UK contained in 11 minutes. The ship whose crew of 24 is alive because 2 destroyers from 2 nations turned toward a burning civilian ship at 8:20 and arrived at 8:29 and stayed alongside until 8:41. The Busan carrier clears the northern exit of the strait at 9:31 in the morning. The third IRGC action in 5 days is behind it. The ceasefire is ahead of whatever comes next. At 8:44 in the morning, on day 74 of the war, the ceasefire ends at sea, not in Islamabad, not in a Truth Social post, not in a Pakistani intermediary's cable to both delegations, in the Strait of Hormuz. At 8:44 in the morning, with 1 Nor anti-ship missile leaving an IRGC coastal patrol vessel's launcher at 480 knots on a direct approach to USS Nitz's forward hull. The IRGC patrol vessel, PGF-114, has been running the Eastern Corridor Sovereignty Assertion Patrol since 6:09 in the morning, a standard ceasefire-era patrol, the kind that has been running since April 7th, the kind that is supposed to demonstrate Iranian presence without crossing the line into active hostility, the kind that crossed the line at 8:44 and 09 seconds when PGF-114's commanding officer, Captain Reza Shirazi, authorized the Nor launch, not because IRGC Naval Command ordered it, not because the Foreign Ministry authorized it, because at 8:31 in the morning, USS Nitza crossed into what Shirazi's standing patrol orders define as the sovereign maritime security zone of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and because Trump called Iran's counter-proposal totally unacceptable, and because Iran's foreign ministry said Iran will never bow, and because Shirazi has been running sovereignty assertion patrols for 74 days, and has been ordered not to fire for 74 days, and today, at 8:31 in the morning, a U.S. Navy destroyer crossed his line, and the ceasefire is on massive life support. And if it dies today, it dies because he fires, not because he holds. He authorizes the Nor launch at 8:44 and 09 seconds. In the Combat Information Center aboard USS Nitza, Commander Aaron Webb has the Nor pre-launch emission at 8:43 and 44 seconds, 25 seconds before the launch. He has been tracking PGF-114 since 7:19 in the morning, when the patrol vessel first appeared on his surface radar running the sovereignty assertion pattern in the Eastern Corridor. He has been watching it with the specific attention of a commander who knows that today is the day. Trump said the ceasefire is on massive life support, and that massive life support means the line between holding and firing is thinner than it has been at any point in 74 days. At 8:43 and 44 seconds, the Nor pre-launch emission tells him the line has been crossed. He has 2 decisions to make in the next 25 seconds. The first is whether to fire back. The second is what to do about the HMS Diamond. Britain's Type 45 destroyer is running escort position 1.4 nautical miles off Nitza's starboard beam. If Nitza fires back, Diamond is in the engagement. If Diamond fires back, then Britain is in the war. Webb picks up the circuit to Callaway at 8:43 and 51 seconds. Sir, PGF-114 has a Nor pre-launch emission active. Launch in approximately 18 seconds. HMS Diamond is 1.4 nautical miles starboard. Request weapons free and request you notify Diamond actual immediately. Callaway reads it in 2 seconds. He picks up 2 circuits simultaneously. CENTCOM for weapons free authorization, and the direct line to HMS Diamond's commanding officer, Captain James Hartley. Callaway to Hartley at 8:44 and 01 seconds. James, Nor launch inbound from PGF-114 in 8 seconds. Webb is going to defend. Your call on Diamond's response. You are in the engagement geometry whether you want to be or not. Hartley reads the situation in 3 seconds. He picks up his own weapons authorization circuit. HMS Diamond going weapons free. Webb receives the CENTCOM authorization at 8:44 and 07 seconds, 2 seconds before the Nor launches. Defend your ship, minimum necessary. Webb has already built the SM-2 solution against PGF-114's launch position since 8:43 and 44 seconds, 23 seconds of solution building. The SM-2 launches at 8:44 and 11 seconds, 2 seconds after the Nor leaves PGF-114's rail. The Nor is already at 480 knots and descending to sea-skimming altitude. The SM-2 solution is clean because Webb spent 23 seconds building it before the Nor launched. The SM-2 intercepts the Nor at 8:44 and 39 seconds. The SM-2 detonates 9 meters from the Nor's airframe, inside the lethal fragmentation radius by 41 meters. The Nor comes apart over the strait. No terminal phase, no pressure wave, no debris reaching USS Nitza. The ceasefire's first naval shot is dead in the water. The Nor that PGF-114 fired to prove Iran will never bow is debris at 8:44 and 39 seconds, 9 meters. Nor destroyed. The ceasefire is still dead because destroying the Nor does not change the fact that PGF-114 fired it, and PGF-114 firing it does not change the fact that Webb is going to respond. He fires the Mk-45 5-inch gun at PGF-114 at 8:44 and 44 seconds, 5 seconds after the Noor is destroyed. Not a warning shot, a direct engagement round. The round impacts PGF-114's forward hull at 8:44 and 58 seconds. The detonation tears through the patrol vessel's forward section. PGF-114 loses propulsion immediately. It begins to list to starboard. The crew is alive. The vessel is not going anywhere. PGF-114 is dead in the water at 8:44 and 58 seconds. The patrol vessel that fired the ceasefire's first naval shot is stopped 14 seconds after the SM-2 destroyed its missile. In Tehran, the Iranian Foreign Ministry duty officer receives the first report of the PGF-114 engagement at 8:46 in the morning. In Washington, the White House Situation Room receives the engagement report from CENTCOM at 8:46 and 14 seconds. In Islamabad, the Pakistani intermediary receives a simultaneous transmission from both delegations at 8:46 and 31 seconds, requesting immediate clarification on the status of the ceasefire. In Bandar Abbas, IRGC Naval District 3 Command receives the report of PGF-114's engagement at 8:45 and 44 seconds. The duty officer calls the district commander at 8:45 and 51 seconds. The district commander calls the fast attack flotilla at 8:46 and 04 seconds. 17 fast attack craft depart Qeshm Island at 8:46 and 44 seconds. The ceasefire that was on massive life support at 8:44 in the morning is not on life support anymore. It is the question every government in every capital on Earth is asking simultaneously at 8:46 in the morning, whether what happened at 8:44 is the ceasefire ending or the ceasefire being tested. Webb transmits to the formation circuit at 8:46 and 51 seconds. All formation units, this is USS Nitsa. PGF-114 fired a Noor missile at 8:44. Noor destroyed by SM-2. PGF-114 engaged and disabled by Mk-45. No casualties, no hull damage. PGF-114 dead in the water at the eastern corridor position. I also have 17 fast attack craft departing Qeshm Island at 8:46 and 44 seconds, bearing 271. Speed 55 knots. Approach geometry converging on our position in 11 minutes. This is not a sovereignty assertion patrol. This is a response to PGF-114's engagement. All units weapons free on fast attack contacts inside 3 nautical miles. HMS Diamond, this is Nitsa. I may need your gun on the fast attack formation. Your call. Hartley comes back in 4 seconds. Nitsa, this is Diamond. We have the fast attack contacts on radar. We are with you. In Washington, Trump is in the Oval Office when the engagement report arrives at 8:47 in the morning. He reads it for 11 seconds. He picks up the phone to his national security advisor. 5 words. Is the ceasefire still on? The national security advisor does not answer for 6 seconds, because the honest answer is that nobody in the White House Situation Room knows whether what happened at 8:44 in the morning is Iran breaking the ceasefire or Iran testing it. And the difference between those two things is the difference between the bombing resuming today and the bombing not resuming today. What everyone in the Situation Room knows is that 17 fast attack craft are running at 55 knots toward USS Nitsa and HMS Diamond at 8:47 in the morning, and that the next 11 minutes are going to answer the question before any diplomat can. 8:46 in the morning. 17 fast attack craft. Qeshm Island, 11 minutes. Webb does not wait for Washington to decide whether the ceasefire is over. He has 11 minutes and 17 contacts at 55 knots and HMS Diamond 1.4 nautical miles to starboard, and he is not going to spend 11 minutes waiting for a determination about the diplomatic status of something that is already in the water and running at 55 knots. The F-35 Sea Cap section from USS Abraham Lincoln has been at 38,000 feet since 8 o'clock in the morning. They have had the 17 Qeshm Island departures on passive sensors since 8:46 and 44 seconds. The lead F-35C calls the engagement at 8:47 and 14 seconds. Nitsa, this is Dragon 2. We have 17 contacts bearing 271. We can clear them before they reach 3 nautical miles. Request you authorize. Webb authorizes at 8:47 and 19 seconds. Dragon 2 weapons free on fast attack contacts bearing 271. Do not engage PGF-114. The lead F-35C descends from 38,000 feet at 8:47 and 21 seconds. His wingman splits to take the eastern formation. They have 17 contacts. They have passive track data since 8:46 and 44 seconds. 23 seconds of passive track. The lead F-35C reaches weapons release range at 8:48 and 04 seconds. 4 GBU-38 guided bombs off the rails. 4 simultaneous impacts at 8:48 and 26 seconds. The Qeshm Island Northern Formation lead contacts gone. 4 more GBU-38s at 8:48 and 34 seconds. 4 more impacts at 8:48 and 56 seconds. 8 contacts destroyed from the Northern Formation. The wingman takes the southern formation simultaneously. 4 GBU-38s at 8:48 and 09 seconds, 4 impacts at 8:48 and 31 seconds, 4 more at 8:48 and 41 seconds, 4 more impacts at 8:49 and 03 seconds, 8 contacts destroyed from the southern formation, 16 contacts destroyed in 62 seconds, 1 contact remaining. Single surviving Keshem Island contact. Still at 55 knots, still closing. Inside 4.1 nautical miles. The lead F-35C has 1 GBU-38 remaining. He fires at 8:49 and 09 seconds. The GBU-38 reaches the final contact at 8:49 and 31 seconds. Direct hit. The last fast attack craft stops dead in the water, 3.8 nautical miles from Nitze's hull. The corridor is clear at 8:49 and 31 seconds. 3 minutes and 2 seconds after the fast attack craft departed Keshem Island. In Tehran at 8:50 in the morning, the Iranian Foreign Ministry duty officer is receiving simultaneous calls from the IRGC Naval Command Liaison reporting the fast attack craft destruction, from the Pakistani intermediary requesting an urgent statement on the ceasefire status, from the Chinese Foreign Ministry requesting clarification, from the French Foreign Ministry requesting clarification, from every government that has asked the same question since 8:46 in the morning. Is the ceasefire over? The duty officer calls the foreign minister directly at 8:51 in the morning. Iraqi answers in 2 seconds. He has been awake since 8:45. He reads the engagement summary in 14 seconds. He makes one call to the Pakistani intermediary at 8:52 in the morning. The transmission is 4 sentences. The PGF-114 engagement at 8:44 was initiated by the patrol vessel commander without authorization from the Iranian government. The Iranian government condemns the unauthorized launch. The Iranian government requests immediate clarification from the United States on whether the ceasefire is still in effect. The Iranian government confirms that the 17 fast attack craft response was also unauthorized and that those responsible are being identified. Webb receives a forwarded copy of IRGC's transmission at 8:53 and 14 seconds through the Emergency Maritime Coordination Channel. He reads it for 5 seconds. He picks up the circuit to Callaway. Sir, Iranian Foreign Ministry is saying PGF-114's launch was unauthorized. They are also saying the 17 fast attack craft were unauthorized. Same pattern as day 70. Sir, the ceasefire may not be over. It may be that Shirazi did the same thing Mohammadi tried to do. Callaway reads it in 4 seconds. He picks up the CENTCOM circuit. Sir, read what I am forwarding. Iranian Foreign Ministry is saying both the PGF-114 launch and the fast attack response were unauthorized. If that is true, this is Shirazi, not Tehran. The ceasefire may be holding at the government level even if it broke at sea. CENTCOM comes back in 31 seconds. Hold position. Do not pursue. Give them time to verify the unauthorized claim. The Situation Room is processing this. Webb transmits to the formation circuit at 8:54 and 44 seconds. All formation units hold current position. Do not pursue. 17 fast attack contacts cleared. PGF-114 disabled and holding position Eastern Corridor. HMS Diamond maintain escort position. We are holding. Hartley acknowledges in 3 words. Diamond copies. Holding. In the Eastern Corridor, PGF-114 is dead in the water. Its crew is alive. Captain Shirazi is standing in the listing wheelhouse of his disabled patrol vessel, looking at USS Nitze 4.2 nautical miles to the west. He authorized the Noor launch because the ceasefire was on massive life support, and Trump said totally unacceptable, and Iran said it will never bow. And a U.S. destroyer crossed his sovereignty line at 8:31, and he had been on this patrol for 74 days. He does not know yet that his launch was unauthorized. He knows that the ceasefire is either over or it is not, and that the answer is being determined right now in a room in Tehran. He cannot see by people he has never met making decisions about a line. He crossed 4 nautical miles from where he is standing. At 9:01 in the morning, the IRGC Chief of Staff transmits a message through the Emergency Coordination Channel. 1 sentence. The PGF-114 launch and subsequent fast attack response were initiated without authorization. The responsible commanders will be held accountable. The Islamic Republic of Iran reaffirms its commitment to the ceasefire as a framework for negotiations. The ceasefire is still in effect. Webb reads the message at 9:01 and 44 seconds. He reads it for 6 seconds. He picks up the Emergency Maritime Coordination Channel. Iranian Naval Command, this is USS Nitze. We have received the Chief of Staff's transmission. We acknowledge the unauthorized nature of the PGF-114 launch. USS Nitze defended by minimum necessary force. PGF-114 is disabled and dead in the water at the Eastern Corridor position. Crew appears uninjured. We recommend you send a recovery vessel. We are holding our position. We are not pursuing. If the ceasefire is still in effect, we will operate accordingly. Nitze out. He puts down the circuit. He looks at the Eastern Corridor on his surface radar. PGF-114 dead in the water. 17 fast attack craft debris, and 1 stopped Hulk in the western corridor. The Noor that Shirazi fired is debris 9 meters from where the SM-2 intercepted it. The ceasefire that was on massive life support at 8:44 in the morning is still technically in effect at 9:01 in the morning. Not because both governments decided it was, because both governments looked at what happened at 8:44 and decided what happened at 8:44 was not the same as what happened on February 28th. Hartley calls Webb on the direct circuit at 9:04 in the morning. Aaron, is it over? Webb looks at his display. PGF 114 dead in the water. Yesh mile and clear. Corridor holding. Ceasefire technically intact. Sir, I do not know. I know the Noor did not reach us. I know the 17 contacts are cleared. I know Shirazi is in a listing boat 4.2 nautical miles east. Whether the ceasefire is over depends on whether what Shirazi did was the ceasefire breaking, or one commander deciding it was over before anyone else did. Hartley is quiet for 5 seconds. Same as Mohammadi. Webb looks at the eastern corridor. Same as Mohammadi. Callaway reads the engagement summary at 9:09 in the morning. 1 Noor launched and destroyed. PGF 114 disabled by MK-45. No casualties, no hull damage. 17 fast attack craft cleared by cap section. No hits on Nitsa or Diamond. Ceasefire technically intact per IRGC Chief of Staff transmission at 9:01. He reads it for 7 seconds. Then he picks up the circuit to Washington. Sir, the ceasefire survived 8:44 in the morning. Technically, the bombing is not resuming today. Today, it was Shirazi, not Tehran. Tomorrow depends on what Tehran does about Shirazi, and what Trump decides massive life support means when an unauthorized IRGC commander fires a Noor at a U.S. destroyer, and the ceasefire survives it by 9 meters and 39 seconds and 1 SM-2 solution that Aaron Webb built while the Noor was still on the rail. The ceasefire is on massive life support. That is what Trump said this morning. At 9:01 in the morning, it is still alive. By 9 meters, by 1 unauthorized patrol boat commander who fired because he had been told Iran will never bow and a U.S. destroyer crossed his line, and by 1 SM-2 that reached the Noor before the Noor reached USS Nitsa. 9 meters. The ceasefire lives 9 meters at a time now. At 6:14 in the morning on day 63 of the war, the missile does not appear on any radar in the Strait of Hormuz. It appears 1,200 nautical miles away, in a different ocean, at the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the 17-mile-wide choke point between Yemen and Djibouti, where the Red Sea meets the Gulf of Aden. The second choke point, the one Iran's parliament deputy warned about yesterday, and when he said its importance may be no less than that of the Strait of Hormuz. The missile launches at 6:14 and 09 seconds from a coastal position on the Yemeni shore. USS Gravely picks it up at 6:14 and 31 seconds, 22 seconds after launch, already inside 31 nautical miles, already committed. USS Gravely is a guided missile destroyer assigned to the Red Sea Patrol. 1 ship, no carrier strike group, no combat air patrol, no mutual support from any other U.S. Navy vessel within response range. Every asset in the theater has been positioned for the Strait of Hormuz for 63 days, because the Bab el-Mandeb has been quiet, because the Houthis agreed to a ceasefire in March and held it for 61 days, because nobody fires a missile from Yemen at a U.S. destroyer on day 63 of a ceasefire that is held for 61 days. Nobody except the missile already in the air at 6:14 in the morning. And the Signals Intelligence Suite aboard USS Abraham Lincoln, 1,200 nautical miles away. Lieutenant Commander Yara Saleh has been watching the Bab el-Mandeb on her secondary display since 5:44 in the morning. Not because anyone told her to, because Iran's parliament deputy said yesterday that the Bab el-Mandeb's importance may be no less than the Strait of Hormuz, because in 63 days of war, Iran has never said something publicly that it was not already planning privately. At 6:14 and 19 seconds she sees it, 10 seconds after the missile launches, 12 seconds before USS Gravely's radar finds the contact. She opens a file on her secondary display, a 2019 Chinese naval exercise report saved during her graduate studies at the Naval Postgraduate School, page 47. The terminal seeker emission profile of the Weizhou 12B anti-ship missile, active radar terminal seeker, operating frequency 9.4 GHz, pulse repetition, interval 2.4 milliseconds. She looks at the emission on her passive sensor display, operating frequency 9.4 GHz, pulse repetition interval 2.4 milliseconds. The missile over the Bab el-Mandeb is not a Houthi weapon. It is a Chinese-designed YJ-12B, supersonic, sea-skimming, terminal phase at Mach 2, designed specifically to defeat the SM-2 standard missile engagement sequence through sea-skimming altitude, supersonic terminal speed, and a frequency-agile seeker that makes fire control solutions marginal in the final 20 seconds. A weapon that does not appear in any Houthi threat assessment. A weapon Iran was given by someone with the manufacturing capability to produce it and the strategic interest in seeing it used against an isolated U.S. destroyer in the Red Sea. She picks up the circuit to the Combat Information Center at 6:14 and 44 seconds. Sir, the Bab el-Mandeb contact has a YJ-12B terminal seeker profile. This is not a Houthi weapon. Iran fired this through the Houthis for deniability. Grave SM-2 engagement sequence was not built for a YJ-12B terminal profile. The seeker is frequency agile. The fire control solution will fail in the last 12 seconds. Gravely needs to know what it is engaging right now. I am transmitting the emission profile directly. The watch officer tells Saleh her assessment is being evaluated. He tells her to stand by. Saleh does not stand by. In just 19 minutes and 14 seconds, USS Gravely will find out if she is right. To understand what Iran has done at 6:14 in the morning, you need to understand what a YJ-12B fired from Yemen through a Houthi proxy means for the entire strategic picture. Because this is not a Houthi attack. The Houthis do not have YJ-12B missiles. They do not have the guidance systems. They do not have the training. What happened at 6:14 in the morning is that Iran fired one of its most advanced anti-ship missiles at a U.S. destroyer using a proxy that gives it complete plausible deniability. The Houthis launched it. The Houthis will claim credit. Iranian fingerprints will not appear in any official statement. Iran will be 1,200 nautical miles away, enforcing its blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. And if the missile hits USS Gravely, the question of whether Iran broke the ceasefire will be answered by lawyers, while the crew is in the water. Iran did not threaten the Bab el-Mandeb yesterday. Iran announced what it had already done. The Parliament deputy statement was not a warning. It was a press release for an operation that launched at 6:14 in the morning. 61 days of Houthi ceasefire was not Iran holding back. It was Iran positioning. 61 days of silence in the Red Sea, while every American asset repositioned toward the Strait of Hormuz. 61 days while the YJ-12B was being prepared, and the launch crew was being trained, and the target was selected. One U.S. guided missile destroyer, one ship, without a strike group, without air cover. The most isolated American naval asset in the theater, USS Gravely, has 19 minutes from the moment of launch. Its SM-2 engagement sequence was built for subsonic and low supersonic threats. The YJ-12B terminal phase at Mach 2 sea skimming at 8 meters above the water is not what the SM-2 fire control solution was built for. Saleh understood this at 6:14 and 44 seconds. The watch officer told her to stand by. She is already transmitting. 6:14 in the morning. Bab el-Mandeb, USS Gravely, 19 minutes. At 6:14 and 51 seconds, Saleh transmits the YJ-12B emission profile directly to USS Gravely's Combat Information Center. She does not route it through the watch officer. She transmits with one line of text. This is a YJ-12B. Your SM-2 fire control solution will fail in terminal phase. Shift to SM-6 active guidance mode. Do not rely on semi-active illumination in the last 20 seconds. Gravely's electronic warfare officer receives the transmission at 6:14 and 58 seconds. She reads it for 3 seconds. Pulls the YJ-12B profile from the database. No entry. She pulls the Chinese Naval Exercise Report Salo attached. Page 47. 11 seconds. Then she picks up the circuit to Commander James Okafor. Huh? Sir? Lincoln EU has an emission match on the inbound contact. YJ-12B profile. If accurate, our SM-2 illumination geometry fails in terminal phase. The seeker is frequency agile. It will break fire control lock in the last 12 seconds. Okafor looks at his display. One contact, bearing 031, range 26 nautical miles, closing at Mach 0.9 in cruise phase. Terminal acceleration to Mach 2, beginning at approximately 18 nautical miles. He looks at the SM-6 inventory. He looks at the emission profile from a signals intelligence officer 1,200 nautical miles away, reading a graduate school paper. Then he modifies the engagement sequence at 6:15 and 14 seconds. SM-6, active guidance terminal mode. Maintain active seeker through impact. Do not shift to SM-2 illumination. The modification loads in 4.1 seconds. He has 14 minutes of clean cruise phase tracking to build the best fire control solution USS Gravely has ever generated. He uses all 14 of them. At 6:29 and 14 seconds, the YJ-12B reaches 18 nautical miles. It does exactly what it was designed to do. It drops from 200 meters to 8 meters above the water in 4.1 seconds. It accelerates from Mach 0.9 to Mach 2.1 in 6.3 seconds. Its seeker activates. Frequency agile, hopping across 47 different frequencies in a pattern that the standard SM-2 semi-active illumination system would need 2.8 seconds to reacquire on every hop. Against a contact at Mach 2.1 at 8 meters altitude, the 2.8 second reacquisition time is not a fire control solution. It is a mist delivered at supersonic speed. The SM-6 active guidance mode does not follow the frequency. It follows the airframe. The Seeker Salah's modification kept active throughout the engagement. The SM-6 launches at 6:29 and 31 seconds, 17 seconds after the YJ-12B began its terminal dive. The fire control solution built during 14 minutes of clean cruise phase tracking is the best Gravely's Aegis system has ever generated. The SM-6 climbs, turns, descends toward the intercept point. The YJ-12B is at 8 meters above the Red Sea, accelerating through Mach 2. Its frequency-agile Seeker is hopping across 47 frequencies. The SM-6 active Seeker is not following the hops. It is following the airframe. The SM-6 reaches the intercept point at 6:29 and 51 seconds, 20 seconds after launch. The YJ-12B is 11.4 nautical miles from USS Gravely's hull. The SM-6 detonates 4.1 meters from the YJ-12B airframe, inside the lethal fragmentation radius by 31 meters. The YJ-12B comes apart at 8 meters above the Red Sea. The debris impacts the water 11.4 nautical miles from the hull. Nothing reaches USS Gravely. Okafor does not pause. He picks up the circuit to CENTCOM at 6:30 and 04 seconds. One YJ-12B destroyed. Launch position fixed. This was not a Houthi weapon. Request strike authorization and signals intelligence confirmation of supply chain origin. 11.4 nautical miles. One destroyer still operational. One ocean still open. In the signals intelligence suite aboard USS Abraham Lincoln, Salah is already working the second problem. The YJ-12B has a preparation signature. The Seeker cooling sequence, the guidance computer power-up, the data link initialization before launch. She has been recording that sequence since 5:44 in the morning. First Seeker cooling at 5:49. Guidance power-up at 5:58, data link at 6:09, launch at 6:14 and 09 seconds. 25 minutes of preparation, a sequence that requires infrastructure, that requires training, that requires someone in that facility for at least 48 hours before launch. She transmits the complete preparation timeline to CENTCOM at 6:30 and 19 seconds with one attached analysis. The preparation sequence began at 5:49 in the morning. The Parliament deputy made his public statement about Bab el-Mandeb at 4:14 yesterday afternoon. The preparation sequence began 14 hours and 35 minutes after the statement. This was not opportunistic. This was pre-planned. The statement was timed to the preparation sequence, not the preparation sequence to the statement. Someone in Tehran decided the timing of both the public warning and the operational launch before either happened. The statement was the operational warning order dressed as political rhetoric, and the 48-hour preparation window means a second launcher may already be in preparation on a different section of the Yemeni coastline. She does not file a report. She transmits. Rear Admiral Calloway reads the CENTCOM assessment at 6:47 in the morning. He reads Saleh's preparation timeline. He reads the 48-hour window. He picks up the circuit to the signals intelligence suite. Lieutenant Commander Saleh, your mission match at 6:14 and 19 seconds. Walk me through what you had. Saleh looks at her display. The Bab el-Mandeb watch she started at 5:44 because a Parliament deputy said something publicly that Iran was already doing privately. The emission profile that matched page 47 of a report she saved in 2019 because the Seeker parameters were unlike anything in the database. The transmission to Gravely at 6:14 and 51 seconds without authorization because the watch officer told her to stand by, and standing by was not going to stop a YJ-12B in terminal phase. Sir, the Parliament deputy's statement identified Bab el-Mandeb as a pressure point. Iran has never made that statement publicly without an operation already in preparation. I began passive monitoring of the Yemeni coastal positions at 5:44. I detected the YJ-12B preparation sequence at 5:49. I matched the emission profile at 6:14 and 19 seconds and transmitted to Gravely at 6:14 and 51 seconds because their SM-2 illumination sequence would have failed in terminal phase and there was no time to route through evaluation. Calloway is quiet for 5 seconds. You identified the match from a graduate school paper. Yes, sir. Page 47. A 2019 Chinese naval exercise report. The YJ-12B terminal Seeker parameters were distinctive enough that I kept the file. He does not respond to that for a moment. Then he picks up the strike authorization circuit. 2 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from USS Gravely at 7:09 in the morning. The Yemeni coastal launch facility ceased to exist at 7:22 and 44 seconds. The second preparation sequence Saleh assessed as possible on a different section of the Yemeni coastline was confirmed by satellite imagery at 6:58, active for 31 hours. 2 more Tomahawks at 7:14. The second facility ceased to exist at 7:28 and 09 seconds. In the White House Situation Room, the assessment arrives alongside the same peace plan Iran transmitted 4 days ago. The peace plan that is still on the table. Now on the table alongside a signals intelligence report confirming that Iran transferred a Chinese-designed supersonic anti-ship missile to a Yemeni proxy and fired it at an isolated U.S. destroyer, while maintaining complete deniability from 1,200 nautical miles away. USS Gravely holds its position at the Bab el-Mandeb. One ship, still alone, still operational. The YJ-12B failed not because Gravely's defenses were designed for it. They were not designed for it. It failed because a signals intelligence officer recognized a seeker emission profile from page 47 of a graduate school paper she saved in 2019 and transmitted a targeting modification to a destroyer 1,200 nautical miles away, 11 seconds after the missile launched. 11 seconds. The difference between a fire control solution that works and one that fails in terminal phase. 11 seconds between page 47 and USS Gravely still operational in the Red Sea. Iran said yesterday it had not yet revealed its new cards. The new card was a Chinese-designed supersonic anti-ship missile transferred through a proxy in a second ocean, while Iran maintained deniability from 1,200 nautical miles away. The card failed, but the question every naval commander in every ocean is asking right now is not whether Iran has more cards. It is how many more oceans Iran is already in. The Strait is quiet. The Red Sea is quiet. USS Gravely is still on station, and Saleh is still watching every coastal position in every ocean where Iran has ever had a presence. Because the parliament deputy said Bab el-Mandeb may be no less important than the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran has never said something publicly that it was not already doing privately. The second card is already in preparation somewhere. She will find it before it launches. At 8:14 in the morning on day 72 of the war, 2 Iranian F-14 Tomcats fire at the Charles de Gaulle, not at USS Abraham Lincoln, not at USS Gonzales, not at any American vessel in the Strait, at the Charles de Gaulle, France's only aircraft carrier, the flagship of the French Navy. The vessel that arrived in the southern Red Sea yesterday as part of a 40-nation multinational mission to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, the vessel that France sent specifically to demonstrate that the closure of the strait is not an American problem, it is a global problem, and that 40 nations are ready to treat it as such. Iran understood the message the moment the Charles de Gaulle departed Toulon. A French carrier in the strait approach is not the same as an American carrier. A French carrier is NATO Article 5. It is the European Union's largest naval power. It is 40 nations who signed a statement expressing readiness to contribute to freedom of navigation and who are watching what happens to France's carrier on the first morning it approaches the strait. If Iran fires at the Charles de Gaulle and the 40-nation coalition does nothing, the coalition is finished. If Iran fires at the Charles de Gaulle and the coalition responds, Iran has made the war 40 nations wide in one morning. Iran chose to fire at the Charles de Gaulle at 8:14 in the morning because both outcomes serve their negotiating position better than letting the Charles de Gaulle enter the strait approach unopposed and uncontested and establish the precedent that a 40-nation coalition can operate freely in what Iran considers Iranian-controlled waters. The 2 F-14 Tomcats launched from a coastal air facility at 7:51 in the morning, 23 minutes of cold, silent approach at 600 feet above the water, running on the exact bearing that puts them between the Charles de Gaulle's position and the strait entrance. The Charles de Gaulle's combat air patrol consists of 2 Rafale Marine fighter jets, French Navy pilots, highly capable, flying their CAP sector at 7 o'clock in the morning and watching the strait and doing what CAP pilots do at 7 o'clock in the morning on the first day of a multinational mission. They are not watching for a cold-running F-14 approach at 600 feet below the coastal radar floor because their threat assessment was built on Iranian behavior patterns from the last 71 days. And in 71 days, Iran has never fired at a non-American naval vessel. The F-14A-9 fire control radars go active at 8:14 and 09 seconds, both simultaneously, already locked on both Rafale Marine aircraft, already firing. 4 AAM-54 Phoenix missiles off the rails in 2.1 seconds. In the Combat Information Center aboard USS Gonzales, Commander Elena Park has had the 2 F-14 thermal contacts on passive sensors since 8:02 in the morning. 12 minutes of watching 2 contacts approach the Charles de Gaulle's position at the same bearing and altitude and speed that F-14S use when they are positioning for a firing solution. She flagged them to the French carrier's tactical officer at 8:06. The French tactical officer assessed them as possible commercial traffic and thanked her for the notification. At 8:14 and 09 seconds, the AW-D9s go active and the Phoenix missiles leave the rails, and the French tactical officer's assessment of possible commercial traffic becomes irrelevant in 0.4 seconds. Park is already moving. They were wrong about what Iran was targeting. They were wrong about everything. To understand what Iran has done at 8:14 in the morning, you need to understand what firing 4 Phoenix missiles at 2 French Rafale Marine aircraft on the first morning of a 40-nation multinational mission actually means for the coalition. Because this is not Iran attacking France. This is Iran attacking the 40-nation coalition's premise. The premise that the closing of the Strait of Hormuz is a problem that 40 nations are going to solve together with the combined weight of their naval presence. Iran's answer to that premise at 8:14 in the morning is 4 Phoenix missiles aimed at the aircraft of the nation that organized the multinational mission and sent their only carrier to lead it. Iran is not trying to sink the Charles de Gaulle. Iran is trying to answer the question that every nation in the 40-nation coalition is about to have to answer simultaneously. The question of whether the coalition holds when Iran fires at one of its members. Whether Article 5 activates, or whether 40 nations decide this is still just an American problem. Whether the Charles de Gaulle's combat air patrol aircraft being targeted by Iranian F-14S produces a unified coalition response, or produces 40 separate conversations about rules of engagement and political exposure and domestic opinion, and whether any of their voters want their navy to be shooting at Iran in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran fired 4 missiles this morning. The real target is not the Rafale Marines. The real target is the coalition that sent them. 8:14 in the morning, 4 Phoenix missiles, the Rafale Marines. 19 seconds. The 2 French Rafale Marine pilots have 19 seconds from the moment the threat warning activates to the first missile arrival. They are highly trained pilots. They react immediately. Both brake hard in opposite directions. Chaff and flares. Maximum G. The first Rafale pilot brakes west. The first Phoenix follows the brake. The Rafale executes a 0G reversal at 8:14 and 19 seconds. The first Phoenix seeker loses the target for 0.3 seconds and then reacquires. Not enough. The 0G reversal put the Rafale 170 meters outside the Phoenix terminal trajectory. The first Phoenix detonates in empty air. Miss. The second Phoenix targeting the first Rafale is already correcting based on watching the first Phoenix miss. The Rafale pilot rolls right and pulls. Maximum G sustained turn. The second Phoenix corrects. The proximity fuse activates at 8:14 and 26 seconds. The second Phoenix detonates 44 meters from the first Rafale, inside the lethal fragmentation radius. 17 fragments reach the Rafale airframe. 3 penetrate the fuselage above the wing root. 1 severs a fuel line. Fuel is streaming from the first Rafale's left side at 8:14 and 28 seconds. The aircraft is still flying, barely. The second Rafale pilot breaks east and goes vertical. Full afterburner. Climbing. The third Phoenix follows the climb. The fourth Phoenix is offset for the recovery. The second Rafale pilot rolls inverted at the top of his climb and pulls toward the horizon. The third Phoenix cannot follow the inverted pull at this closure rate. It detonates 91 meters below the Rafale's recovery arc. Miss. The fourth Phoenix has the second Rafale in its seeker. The second pilot sees it. He has 2 seconds. He releases his entire chaff reserve simultaneously. The chaff bloom creates a seeker environment the fourth Phoenix cannot resolve cleanly. The Phoenix fuse activates at the edge of its lethal radius. The detonation is 61 meters from the second Rafale, outside lethal fragmentation range by 9 meters. No penetrations. The second Rafale is operational. The first Rafale is streaming fuel and losing altitude with 17 fragment impacts in the fuselage. Its pilot is alive. He is flying. He cannot fly much longer. Park has been watching all of this from USS Gonzalez's Combat Information Center since the 89s went active at 8:14 and 09 seconds. She transmitted the F-14 active emission to the Charles de Gaulle's tactical circuit at 8:14 and 11 seconds. 2 seconds after the 89S went active, 8 seconds before the first Phoenix arrived. She was already building the engagement solution at 8:14 and 09 seconds, because she had been building it since 8:02 in the morning when she first flagged the thermal contacts. 12 minutes of solution building. The best solution she has ever had when a firing event occurred because she had 12 minutes instead of 19 seconds. She does not need authorization to engage. The U.S.-France Mutual Defense Arrangement and the coalition rules of engagement that were agreed before the Charles de Gaulle departed Toulon give USS Gonzalez authority to engage threats to coalition vessels without separate authorization. She fires 2 AM-120D AMRAAMs at 8:14 and 31 seconds. 22 seconds after the AUG-9S went active, 3 seconds after the fourth Phoenix detonated near the second Rafale. The 2 F-14 Tomcats are aggressing at Mach 2.1, climbing through 7,000 feet. They have been airborne for 23 minutes running cold, and they fired, and now they are running for home. They have been running for 17 seconds. They believe the engagement is complete. Their threat warning systems are dark. They have emitted nothing since the 89s went active 8 seconds before they fired, and nothing since. There is nothing behind them their sensors can detect. There is nothing. Except 2 AIM-12ODAMRAAMS running at Mach 4 on active radar seekers that went live at 8 nautical miles and have been tracking both F-14S for 11 seconds. The lead F-14 crew gets 1 second of warning. The first AMRAAM arrives at 8:14 and 44 seconds. The lead F-14 comes apart at 7,000 feet. Hard white flash in the morning sky above the Strait of Hormuz. No ejection, no distress call. One Tomcat gone. The second AMRAAM arrives 6 seconds later at 8:14 and 50 seconds. The second F-14 comes apart at 5,000 feet. It enters the water 2.3 miles east of the first. No ejection, no distress call. 2 Tomcats gone. From the moment the A-9s went active to the moment the second F-14 impacted, the water was 41 seconds. In 41 seconds, Iran fired at a 40-nation coalition, and the coalition answered with 2 AMRAAMs. Now the question every government in the coalition is asking simultaneously is what happens next. 41 seconds, 2 Tomcats gone. 1 Rafale streaming fuel. The coalition is watching. Park transmits on the coalition coordination circuit at 8:15 and 04 seconds. All coalition units, this is USS Gonzales. 2 F-14 contacts engaged and destroyed at 8:14 and 44 and 50 seconds. First Rafale Marine aircraft is damaged and streaming fuel, declaring emergency. Second Rafale Marine is operational. No coalition vessels damaged. USS Gonzales, acting under Coalition ROE Article 4 in defense of Allied aircraft, transmitting engagement summary to all coalition commands. She transmits the engagement summary to every coalition vessel in the theater simultaneously, to HMS Diamond, to HMAS Hobart, to every French naval command, to CENTCOM, to NATO command, to the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force liaison, to the Indian Navy liaison, to the South Korean Navy liaison. 40 nations who signed a statement expressing readiness to contribute to freedom of navigation received USS Gonzales's engagement summary at 8:15 and 14 seconds. In Paris, the French Ministry of Defense receives the summary at 8:15 and 19 seconds. In London, in Canberra, in Tokyo, in New Delhi, in Seoul, 40 capitals receiving the same summary simultaneously. 2 F-14S engaged Iran's coalition Rafale Marine aircraft. 1 Rafale damaged streaming fuel. Both F-14S destroyed by USS Gonzales, acting under Coalition ROE. The damaged Rafale declares emergency at 8:15 and 31 seconds. Fuel critical. The pilot needs to land in the next 14 minutes. The Charles de Gaulle is 44 nautical miles from the Rafale's position. Too far. The nearest surface vessel with a flight deck large enough for a Rafale emergency landing is USS Abraham Lincoln, 31 miles. 12 minutes at emergency approach speed. The French pilot requests emergency landing authorization from USS Abraham Lincoln at 8:15 and 44 seconds. Callaway authorizes immediately. The Rafale Marine pilot lands on USS Abraham Lincoln's flight deck at 8:27 in the morning, the first French military aircraft to land on an American carrier in 41 years. The French pilot climbs down from the cockpit. The Abraham Lincoln's deck crew is already surrounding the aircraft assessing the damage. 17 fragment penetrations. Severed fuel line. The aircraft will need significant repair. The pilot is uninjured. He looks at the American deck crew around his aircraft. He says one sentence in English. "Thank you for the shot." In Tehran, the Iranian Foreign Ministry is processing what happened at 8:14 in the morning. 4 Phoenix missiles fired at 2 Rafale Marine aircraft. 2 Rafale Marine aircraft survived. 2 F-14 Tomcats destroyed by USS Gonzales acting under Coalition ROE. In 41 seconds, Iran answered the 40-nation coalition question, and the coalition answered back. And now the question that Iran was trying to use those 4 Phoenix missiles to force the coalition to answer, do you hold together or do you fracture, has been answered. The coalition held. 1 American destroyer, acting under agreed coalition rules of engagement, destroyed 2 Iranian aircraft that fired at a French carrier's combat air patrol without waiting for 40 capitals to reach consensus. Because the coalition rules of engagement that were agreed before the Charles de Gaulle departed Toulon had already reached consensus, the rules said defend coalition aircraft as you would defend your own. Park followed the rules. In Islamabad, the peace negotiations that have been ongoing for 11 weeks receive a 1-page briefing. From the Pakistani intermediary at 8:31 in the morning, Iran fired on French naval aircraft at 8:14. Both F-14S destroyed. French Rafale emergency landed on USS Abraham Lincoln. Coalition ROE held. U.S. negotiators request that Iranian delegation address the unauthorized strike in the context of the memorandum being finalized. The Iranian delegation reads the briefing for 8 seconds. The lead negotiator looks at his counterpart. He says one sentence, "We need to make a call." He picks up his phone. In the Combat Information Center, Park writes the engagement summary at 8:41 in the morning. 2 F-14 contacts engage coalition Rafale Marine aircraft at 8:14 and 09 seconds. 4 AIM-54 Phoenix missiles fired. First Rafale damaged 17 fragment impacts, severed fuel line. Second Rafale operational. Both F-14S destroyed 8:14 and 44 and 50 seconds by AIM-12 ODAMRAAMS acting under Coalition ROE Article 4. French Rafale emergency landing USS Abraham Lincoln 8:27. Pilot uninjured. She adds 3 lines that are not in the standard format. Iran fired at France this morning. They chose France because a French carrier is 40 nations, and 40 nations fracturing is worth more to Iran's negotiating position than 2 Rafale marine aircraft destroyed. They were wrong about the 40 nations. One destroyer acting under agreed coalition rules engaged and destroyed both F-14S in 41 seconds without waiting for 40 capitals to answer. The coalition did not fracture. The ROE held. Iran's question was answered before Tehran finished asking it. At 8:14 in the morning on day 79 of the war, 300 Iranian suicide drones entered USS Gonzalez's radar coverage simultaneously. Not fast attack craft, not F-14 Tomcats, not nor anti-ship missiles, drones. 300 of them. Each one the size of a laptop computer. Each one carrying 4.5 kilograms of shaped charge explosive in its nose. Each one flying at 180 knots at 6 meters above the water on a Jeep's guided approach vector that was pre-programmed before launch. Pre-programmed. Not guided. Not controlled. Not dependent on any radio link that can be jammed. Autonomous from the moment they left their launchers. 300 autonomous shaped charge drones at 180 knots at 6 meters above the water from 6 simultaneous launch positions surrounding USS Gonzalez in a 360-degree ring. North, northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest. 6 approach vectors. 50 drones per vector. Launched simultaneously from 6 separate sites, 4 coastal positions on the Iranian shoreline, and 2 from semi-submersible launch platforms that the IRGC has been positioning in the Strait for 11 days. All 300 drones airborne at 8:14 and 09 seconds. All 300 targeting the same point. The same point on USS Gonzalez's hull at the waterline, the engine room. 50 drones from 6 directions, all programmed to impact the same 4-meter by 4-meter section of USS Gonzalez's hull below the waterline on the starboard engine room bulkhead. Not to overwhelm the phalanx, to defeat it mathematically, because the phalanx CUS fires at 4,500 rounds per minute against a target it has acquired. Acquisition takes 0.4 seconds per target. At 180 knots, a drone covers 37 meters per second. In the 0.4 seconds, the phalanx needs to acquire the first drone. The first drone has closed 14.8 meters. In the time the phalanx fires its burst sequence and reacquires the next target, the next drone has closed another 22 meters. The phalanx can engage one target every 1.1 seconds against a drone at 180 knots. One target every 1.1 seconds against 300 targets means the phalanx needs 330 seconds to engage all 300 individually. 330 seconds is 5 minutes and 30 seconds. The first drone reaches the hull in 4 minutes and 12 seconds from the moment of launch. The phalanx fires continuously for 4 minutes and 12 seconds and destroys 229 drones before the first surviving drone reaches the hull. 71 drones reach the hull. 71 shaped charge detonations against the same 4-meter by 4-meter section of starboard hull below the waterline. Commander Elna Park has been watching the launch signatures since 7:31 in the morning. 43 minutes before the drones launched. She did not see fast attack departures. She did not see F-14 thermal contacts. She saw something she has never seen in 79 days of war. 6 simultaneous emission signatures from 6 different positions surrounding Gonzalez in a 360-degree ring. Not weapons fire control emissions. Launch sequence telemetry from 6 drone swarm controllers. Each controller activating its pre-programmed launch sequence simultaneously. The specific signature of an autonomous drone swarm pre-launch telemetry burst, a signal that lasts 0.8 seconds and then goes permanently silent, because autonomous drones do not need their controllers after launch. She flagged the signatures at 7:31 and filed a report at 7:34. It came back at 7:51, logged and noted. Drone activity being assessed. Continue monitoring. She has been continuing monitoring for 43 minutes. At 8:09 in the morning, she transmits directly to Callaway. Not a report, a transmission. Sir, I have pre-launch telemetry signatures from 6 simultaneous drone swarm controllers surrounding our position in a 360-degree ring. This is an autonomous drone swarm launch sequence, pre-programmed. No radio control, cannot be jammed after launch. I assess this as a saturation attack designed around the phalanx engagement rate. If the swarm is 300 drones or more, the phalanx mathematics do not work. I need every available interceptor, and I need the ESSM multi-mode engagement sequence activated now before the drones launch. I also need the formation to close the minimum mutual support range, because the only way to defeat a 360-degree drone swarm is to create overlapping phalanx coverage from multiple ships. I have 5 minutes before the launch sequence completes. Callaway reads it in 4 seconds. He picks up the formation circuit at 8:09 and 14 seconds. All formation units, this is Lincoln actual. Gonzalez has a drone swarm pre-launch assessment. 6 controllers. 360-degree ring. Possible saturation attack. All units close to minimum mutual support range immediately. All phalanx systems to active tracking mode. All ESSM systems to multi-mode engagement. All units, this is going to be a mathematics problem, not a tactics problem. Get close. Overlap your coverage. That is the only solution. Move now. In just 5 minutes, USS Gonzales will find out if overlapping phalanx coverage from 3 destroyers is enough mathematics to defeat 300 autonomous drones. To understand what Iran has built at 8:14 in the morning on day 79, you need to understand what a pre-programmed autonomous drone swarm specifically engineered around the phalanx engagement rate actually does to every defensive system the U.S. Navy has deployed in the Strait for 79 days. Because every U.S. Navy defensive system in the Strait is built around the assumption that threats can be detected, tracked, acquired, and engaged in sequence. SM-2 against NOR missiles, SM-6 against Phoenix missiles, SM-3 against ballistic reentry vehicles, ESSM against fast-moving sea skimmers, phalanx against terminal threats that slip through the outer layers. All of it sequential. All of it built around the assumption that threats arrive in manageable numbers that the engagement sequence can process. 300 simultaneous autonomous drones at 180 knots from 6 directions destroys the sequential assumption. There is no outer layer engagement. There is no SM-6 solution against a drone the size of a laptop flying at 6 meters above the water, because the SM-6 fire control radar cannot track a 0.3 square meter radar cross-section at 6 meters altitude in the ground clutter of the Strait of Hormuz. There is no ESSM solution, because the ESSM minimum engagement altitude is 15 meters and the drones are flying at 6. There is nothing between 300 autonomous shaped charge drones and USS Gonzales, except the phalanx. And the phalanx mathematics do not work against 300. Iran spent 11 days positioning 6 semi-submersible launch platforms in the Strait because 11 days of positioning was worth it to build an attack that defeats every defensive layer the U.S. Navy has by flying below all of them and saturating the one system left. The phalanx was not designed to be the only layer. It was designed to be the last layer. Iran designed 300 drones specifically for the moment when the phalanx is the only layer left. 8:09 in the morning. Minimum mutual support range. 3 destroyers closing. USS Nitsa and USS Mason begin closing to minimum mutual support range at 8:09 and 19 seconds. 5 seconds after Callaway's formation circuit transmission. Minimum mutual support range for overlapping phalanx coverage is 0.8 nautical miles. At 0.8 nautical miles, the phalanx arc of each destroyer overlaps the coverage arc of the adjacent destroyer by 40 degrees. 40 degrees of overlap means every approach vector that one destroyer's phalanx cannot cover, the adjacent destroyer's phalanx can cover. 3 destroyers in a triangle formation at 0.8 nautical miles mutual separation creates a 360-degree phalanx coverage ring with no blind spots. Not one phalanx against 300 drones. 3 phalanx systems sharing the target load across the ring. The 3-destroyer triangle is complete at 8:12 and 44 seconds, 1 minute and 26 seconds before the drones launch. The combined phalanx engagement rate of 3 systems firing simultaneously is not 3 times the single system rate. It is more, because 3 systems sharing a 360-degree ring means each system covers a 120-degree sector instead of 360 degrees. Each system can concentrate its engagement rate against 50 drones in its sector instead of routing against all 300. 50 drones per 120-degree sector, each phalanx engaging one target every 1.1 seconds against 50 targets in its sector, needs 55 seconds to engage all 50. The first drone reaches the hull in 4 minutes and 12 seconds. 3 phalanx systems in triangle formation have 4 minutes and 12 seconds to engage 150 drones total across 3 120-degree sectors before the first surviving drone reaches the hull. 3 systems in 252 seconds can engage 229 drones, 229 out of 300. 71 still reach the hull. The mathematics are better with 3 systems than 1. They are not good enough. Park knows this. She has been running the engagement mathematics since 8:09 in the morning while the formation was closing. She knows the 3 phalanx triangle is not sufficient. She needs something the engagement mathematics do not include. She transmits to the formation circuit at 8:12 and 51 seconds. All formation units, this is Gonzales. 3 phalanx triangle mathematics still leave 71 drones reaching the hull at current engagement rate. I need each ship to activate the CI's decoy system simultaneously, and I need the formation to execute a continuous 5-knot circular maneuver during the engagement. The drones are jeeps guided to a pre-programmed impact point. A 5-knot circular maneuver moves the hull 9 meters from the pre-programmed point every 30 seconds. The drones cannot correct because they are pre-programmed. A drone aimed at a hull position that moves 9 meters every 30 seconds will miss if the hull is not where the jeep's coordinates say it should be. All units execute continuous 5-knot starboard circle beginning now. Maintain triangle formation geometry while maneuvering. The formation circuit goes quiet for 2 seconds. Then Mason. That works. Executing. Then Nitsa. Executing. 3 destroyers begin their continuous 5-knot starboard circle at 8:13 in the morning, maintaining the triangle geometry, while the entire triangle rotates slowly, like a gear turning in the straight. The drones launch at 8:14 and 09 seconds, all 300 simultaneously. all pre-programmed to GPS coordinates that were accurate at 8:01 in the morning when the launch sequence was finalized. Coordinates that describe the exact position of USS Gonzalez's starboard engine room bulkhead at 8:01 in the morning, the position that the 5-knot circular maneuver has been moving away from since 8:13 in the morning. 13 minutes of circular maneuver before the first drone arrives. 13 minutes at 5 knots in a circular pattern displaces the hull 73 meters from the pre-programmed GPS coordinates. A shape-charged drone programmed to impact a GPS coordinate that is 73 meters from the actual hull position at the moment of impact misses by 73 meters. The drones cannot correct. They are pre-programmed. They impact the water 73 meters from USS Gonzalez's hull at the pre-programmed GPS coordinates. Not all of them. The drones that the phalanx systems did not engage. The 71 surviving drones that the mathematics said would reach the hull. All 71 impact the water 73 meters from the hull. 71 shape-charged detonations in the water 73 meters from USS Gonzalez. 71 pressure waves. The combined pressure wave from 71 simultaneous detonations 73 meters from the hull hits USS Gonzalez at 8:18 and 31 seconds. It is the largest single pressure wave impact in 79 days of war. Every crew member not secured to a fixed structure is thrown to the deck simultaneously. 14 crew members are injured in the impact. 3. Seriously. The forward radar array loses power for 11 seconds. 3 bridge windows shatter. The hull holds. No penetrations, no flooding, no loss of propulsion. USS Gonzalez is still operational at 8:18 and 44 seconds. The same for USS Nitsa. The same for USS Mason. 3 destroyers, 300 autonomous drones, 0 hull penetrations, 14 injuries. Park transmits to Callaway at 8:18 and 51 seconds. Sir, all 300 contacts have impacted. 0 hull penetrations, 14 crew injured, 3 seriously. Forward radar offline 11 seconds. Back online now. Phalanx systems all 3 ships operational. Formation intact. The 5-knot maneuver displaced our hull position 73 meters from the pre-programmed GPS coordinates. The drones could not correct. They hit where we were at 8:01. We were not there at 8:18. Callaway reads it for 8 seconds. He picks up the circuit to CENTCOM. Sir, 300 autonomous drones. 0 hull penetrations. The drones were pre-programmed to GPS coordinates. We moved. CENTCOM is quiet for 6 seconds. Then one word. How? Callaway looks at his display. 3 destroyers still in triangle formation, still executing the 5-knot circle. He picks up the circuit to Park. Commander Park, the 5-knot circular maneuver. Walk me through 8:09 in the morning. Park looks at her passive sensor display. The 6 pre-launch telemetry signatures she detected at 7:31. The report filed at 7:34. Logged and noted at 7:51. The direct transmission to Callaway at 8:09. The engagement mathematics she ran between 8:09 and 8:12 that told her the 3 phalanx triangle was not sufficient. The one variable in the engagement mathematics that Iran's pre-programming could not account for. Sir, the drones are autonomous, pre-programmed to GPS coordinates. They cannot correct. If the hull is not at the GPS coordinate when the drone arrives, the drone misses. The only way to move the hull from a GPS coordinate on a pre-programmed timeline is to maneuver continuously from the moment you know the coordinates are locked. The pre-launch telemetry burst at 7:31 was the moment the coordinates were locked. I had 43 minutes to start moving before the launch sequence completed. The report came back logged and noted at 7:51. I transmitted directly at 8:09 because the formation had to be closed and maneuvering before 8:14, and the report timeline was not going to get there. Callaway is quiet for 9 seconds. You detected the telemetry burst at 7:31 and understood the GPS coordinate lock. Yes, sir. And you understood that the only defense was to not be at those coordinates when the drones arrived. Yes, sir. And you filed a report that came back logged and noted. Yes, sir. He does not respond to that for a long moment. Then he picks up the CENTCOM circuit. Sir, I need to tell you about a signals intelligence officer who detected a pre-launch telemetry burst at 7:31 in the morning and filed a report that came back logged and noted, and then spent 43 minutes running engagement mathematics and built a 5-knot circular maneuver solution that moved 3 destroyer hulls 73 meters from 300 pre-programmed GPS coordinates. Sir, 300 drones, 0 hull penetrations. Logged and noted is not the same as wrong. And 43 minutes is enough time to move a destroyer 73 meters if you start at 7:31. In the water around USS Gonzalez, at 8:19 in the morning, there are 300 drone debris fields, 300 laptop-sized shapes at the bottom of the Strait of Hormuz, each one carrying 4.5 kilograms of shaped charge explosive that detonated 73 meters from the hull it was aimed at. Iran spent 11 days positioning 6 launch platforms for a swarm that could not be jammed, could not be intercepted by any outer layer defense system, and was mathematically designed to defeat the phalanx engagement rate. The swarm failed because the hull was not where Iran said it would be at 8:01 in the morning. The hull was not there because at 7:31, someone was watching the pre-launch telemetry burst and understanding what it meant and filing a report that came back logged and noted and running the mathematics anyway and building the maneuver that moved the hull 73 meters by the time 300 drones arrived at the coordinates where it used to be. At 6:14 in the morning on day 65 of the war, Iran's new mechanism for the Strait of Hormuz reveals itself. Not in a diplomatic cable, not in a press statement from the foreign ministry, not in a 14-point peace proposal submitted through Pakistani intermediaries at midnight while Trump's team slept and oil markets held their breath waiting for an answer that has not come. The new mechanism reveals itself in the water. At 6:14 in the morning, the passive sensor display aboard USS Gonzales shows something that Commander Elena Park has never seen in 65 days of war, and has never seen in 14 years of naval service, and has never seen described in any threat assessment or exercise scenario or doctrine document produced by any branch of the United States military. 27 contacts, simultaneously, from 3 Iranian ports, Bandar Abbas to the north, Qashm Island to the northwest, Larak Island to the west, but they are not moving the way IRGC, fast attack craft, have moved in every previous engagement of this war. They are not converging on the blockade enforcement line. They are not targeting USS Abraham Lincoln or USS George H.W. Bush or any U.S. Navy vessel. They are spreading, fanning out in a line, a horizontal line across the width of the Strait of Hormuz, east to west, Iranian coastline to Omani coastline, 17 nautical miles of water. 27 contacts spreading themselves across 17 nautical miles of water in a formation that Park has seen once before in her career, not in combat, in a photograph. A photograph from the 1980 tanker war. Iranian fishing dhows forming a human chain across the lower strait to protest Iraqi shipping. A protest formation. A physical barrier, not an attack. A wall. Iran is not attacking the blockade. Iran is building a wall across the strait using every vessel it can put in the water simultaneously. IRGC fast attack craft. Fishing dhows. Coastal patrol boats. Civilian speedboats registered to Iranian port authorities. Anything that floats and can hold a position, all of it moving at different speeds toward a line that, when complete, will stretch from the Iranian coastline on the north shore to the boundary of Omani territorial waters on the south shore, and will stop and sit and not move. A physical barrier that is not an attack. A wall that the United States Navy cannot legally fire at because firing at a civilian fishing dhow in international waters during a ceasefire to clear a shipping lane is not a rules of engagement scenario. It is an international incident. It is a war crime allegation. It is the image that ends the ceasefire talks and hands Iran every diplomatic argument it has been trying to make for 65 days. Park looks at her display for 6 seconds. She looks at the formation geometry. She looks at the gap analysis. Then she sees it. The thing that changes everything. The thing that makes this not a protest formation and not an improvised blockade. The thing that makes this the most precisely engineered Iranian naval operation of the entire war. The gaps. Every vessel in the formation has a gap to its neighbors, not random gaps, not the gaps you get when you put 27 vessels of different sizes and speeds in a line across 17 nautical miles of open water. Precise gaps, specific widths, located at specific positions across the line. She pulls up the Phalanx CIWS coverage map on her secondary display. The fire control arcs of every close-in weapons system on every U.S. Navy vessel in the formation. She overlays the gap positions on the coverage map. Every gap in Iran's wall of boats corresponds exactly to a blind spot in the Phalanx engagement arc of the nearest U.S. Navy vessel. Not approximately, not roughly, exactly, to within 4 meters. 27 vessels positioned so that every gap between them falls in dead space where no Phalanx system in the formation can engage a contact passing through it. Iran did not improvise this formation. At 6:14 in the morning, Iran mapped the defensive coverage of the blockade enforcement line. Iran identified every Phalanx blind spot. Iran engineered a wall of boats around those blind spots so that anything Iran wants to move through the strait can move through the gaps while the U.S. Navy watches. The new mechanism for the Strait of Hormuz is not a diplomatic concept. It is a targeting solution, and it is already in the water. She picks up the circuit to Rear Admiral Callaway at 6:14 and 19 seconds. Not the watch officer circuit, not the Combat Information Center circuit, the formation-wide circuit. Because what she is about to say is not a watch officer problem. All formation units, this is Gonzales actual. I have 27 contacts forming a barrier line across the strait, bearing 019271. IRGC craft mixed with civilian vessels. Formation is not a combat approach. It is a static barrier line. Contact spacing correlates exactly with our phalanx blind spot geometry. I say again, exactly. Iran has mapped our defensive coverage and engineered this formation around it. This is not an attack formation. This is a mechanism. They are going to park these boats across the strait and move whatever they want through the gaps. I need all vessels to assess phalanx coverage immediately, and I need weapons-free authority on any contact that enters our blind spot gaps. I am transmitting the correlation analysis now. The formation circuit is quiet for 4 seconds. Then, Callaway. All strike group units, this is Lincoln actual. I have eyes on 27 contacts barrier formation. Gonzalez assessment is confirmed. All units verify phalanx coverage immediately. Weapons tight on barrier contacts. Do not engage the barrier line. I say again, do not engage. Washington is going to have a problem with firing on civilian vessels during an active ceasefire, and I need guidance before we clear any blind spots. He does not say what he is thinking. What he is thinking is that Washington is going to take 11 minutes to respond, and Iran has been planning this since midnight, when they submitted the 14-point proposal, and the formation will be complete in 8 minutes. Whatever Iran wants to move through those gaps will start moving in 9. In just 9 minutes, the new mechanism for the Strait of Hormuz will be operational, and nobody in Washington has written the rules of engagement for what happens next. To understand what Iran has built at 6:14 in the morning, on day 65 of the war, you need to understand what a static barrier line of mixed civilian and military vessels across the Strait of Hormuz actually does to the clearness, legal framework that governs everything the U.S. Navy can do in the Strait. Because this is not a swarm attack. Iran has launched swarm attacks before. The U.S. Navy defeated 31 boats on IRGC Anniversary Day, 44 boats against 2 carriers simultaneously, 23 boats against civilian ships the morning the war termination letter reached Congress. Every swarm attack was a military problem with a military solution. This is not a military problem. This is a legal problem dressed as a military problem, dressed as a diplomatic framework submitted to Pakistani intermediaries at midnight. The 14-point peace proposal that Iran submitted last night calls for a new mechanism for the Strait of Hormuz, a mechanism that would give Iran authority over who enters the strait and under what conditions. The mechanism that Trump said he could not imagine would be acceptable. The mechanism that Iran is implementing right now at 6:14 in the morning without waiting for Trump's acceptance. Because Iran does not need Trump's acceptance to park 27 boats in a line across 17 nautical miles of water. Iran needs only the legal reality that the United States cannot fire on a fishing dhow in international waters during a ceasefire without destroying the diplomatic credibility it has spent 65 days trying to maintain. The fishing dhows are the mechanism. The phalanx blind spots are the gaps in the mechanism. And whatever Iran puts through those gaps in the next 9 minutes will be the reason Iran submitted the 14-point proposal at midnight instead of 6 in the morning. The proposal was the diplomatic cover. The barrier is the operational reality, and the gaps in the barrier are already calibrated to pass whatever Iran needs to move through the strait before Washington finishes reading point 7 of the 14-point proposal and realizes that point 7 is not a diplomatic condition. It is a transit authorization for something already in the water. 6:14 in the morning, the barrier line. 8 minutes to completion. Park does not wait for Washington. She has been building the phalanx blind spot analysis since 6:14 and 19 seconds, and she is done with it at 6:14 and 51 seconds. 32 seconds of analysis that tells her 6 things she needs to know immediately. 1. The barrier line will be complete at 6:22 in the morning, when the last contact from Larak Island reaches its position on the western end of the line. 2. There are 11 blind spot gaps in the formation, as currently tracked. 3. The largest gap is at bearing 147 from Gonzalez's current position, 114 meters wide enough to pass a vessel up to 90 meters in length without entering any phalanx engagement arc. 4. The second largest gap is at bearing 261 from USS Bulkley's current position, 88 meters wide enough to pass a vessel up to 70 meters. 5. Both gaps are oriented toward the civilian vessel cluster in the central corridor, where 20,000 seafarers have been trapped for 65 days. 6. The Feta-class submarine that our passive sensors have been tracking on bearing 214 since 5:44 in the morning is still holding position at depth. It has not moved since she first noticed it. A Feta-class submarine holding position on bearing 214 for 30 minutes, while 27 vessels form a barrier line across the strait, is not a coincidence. The submarine is the thing Iran wants to move through the gaps. Not today. Later, after the barrier line is established. After the legal precedent of Iranian control over the strait passage is set by the fact of 27 boats sitting across it for however long it takes Washington to figure out what to do. The submarine is the reason for the gaps. The gaps are sized for the submarine. The barrier is the diplomatic mechanism that protects the submarine's eventual transit. Park transmits the complete analysis to Callaway at 6:15 and 04 seconds. Everything. The gap analysis, the phalanx correlation, the Fateh-class contact on bearing 214, the gap sizing consistent with submarine transit dimensions, the assessment that the barrier line is not today's weapon. The barrier line is the legal framework for tomorrow's weapon. Callaway reads it for 8 seconds. He is quiet for 3 more. Then he picks up the circuit to Washington on the secure line. Sir, I need you to read what Gonzalez just sent me. Read it before you answer. Standby for guidance. 6:15 in the morning. Washington, the secure line. In the White House Situation Room, the Gonzalez analysis arrives at 6:15 and 11 seconds. The duty officer reads it for 14 seconds. He picks up the phone to the National Security Advisor. The NSA reads it for 22 seconds. He picks up the phone to the Secretary of Defense. The SecDef reads it for 31 seconds. He picks up the phone to the President. The President reads it for 44 seconds. The response that comes back to Callaway at 6:16 and 9 seconds is not a decision. It is a question. Can you close the gaps without engaging the barrier contacts? Callaway reads it for 2 seconds. He looks at his formation display. He looks at the gap positions overlaid on the phalanx coverage map. He looks at the Fateh-class contact on bearing 214, still holding at depth. He picks up the circuit to Park. Commander Park, walk me through closing the gaps without engaging the barrier contacts. Park has been thinking about this since 6:14 and 51 seconds. She has been thinking about it while she was building the analysis. She has been thinking about it while the analysis was transmitting. She has 4 options, and she has been ranking them in order of viability for 6 minutes and 18 seconds. Sir, option 1. We reposition the formation. Move every U.S. Navy vessel to close the blind spots by changing our own coverage geometry rather than engaging the barrier contacts. Problem. It takes 11 to 14 minutes to reposition the formation, and the barrier line will be complete in 6 minutes. We cannot reposition before the line closes. Option 2. We use active sonar on the submarine contact bearing 214 to force it to surface or evade. This eliminates the primary thing. Iran wants to move through the gaps without engaging the barrier line. Problem. Active sonar on a submerged contact during a ceasefire will be characterized as an act of war by Iranian state media before the ping returns. Option 3. We interpose U.S. Navy vessels directly in the gaps. Put a destroyer hull in each blind spot so that anything Iran wants to move through has to physically move us first. Moving a U.S. Navy vessel is a hostile act. The legal problem shifts from us to Iran. Problem. We have 2 destroyers and 11 gaps. We cannot cover 11 gaps with 2 ships. Option 4. We do nothing to the barrier line. We do nothing to the gaps. We do nothing to the submarine. We transmit the complete analysis to every allied navy in the region. UK, France, Australia, every vessel that signed the 36-nation statement expressing readiness to contribute to safe passage. We ask them to fill the gaps. Their vessels, their flags, their legal exposure, their rules of engagement. Not ours. Callaway is quiet for 9 seconds. Then he picks up the circuit to Washington. Sir, option 4, 6:17 in the morning. The Allied response. The transmission goes to HMS Diamond in the Gulf of Oman at 6:17 and 14 seconds. To HMAS Hobart at 6:17 and 19 seconds. To S. Alsace at 6:17 and 24 seconds. To every Allied vessel within response range. The transmission contains 3 things. The Gonzalez barrier analysis, the gap positions with exact coordinates, and 1 line of text. We need hulls in these gaps. Your flag, your call. The response from HMS Diamond comes back at 6:17 and 41 seconds, 27 seconds after transmission. 4 words from the Royal Navy officer on the Diamond's bridge. We are already moving. HMS Diamond is already at maximum speed toward the barrier line at 6:17 and 41 seconds, moving toward the largest gap at bearing 147, 114 meters wide enough for a Fateh-class submarine. The Royal Navy destroyer that will fill it is 152 meters long. It will not fit through the gap when it arrives, which is exactly the point. HMAS Hobart responds at 6:17 and 51 seconds, moving to gap, bearing 261. FS Alsace responds at 6:18 and 4 seconds, moving to gap, bearing 219. 3 Allied destroyers converging on 3 of the 11 gaps in Iran's barrier line at maximum speed. 8 gaps still open. 6 more Allied vessels respond between 6:18 and 6:22 in the morning. all of them moving, all of them filling gaps, not firing, not engaging the barrier contacts, not touching the Iranian fishing dhows or the IRGC patrol craft or any of the 27 vessels holding position in the line, just moving into the gaps and stopping. Allied hulls in Iranian-engineered blind spots. The legal mechanism Iran built around the phalanx coverage geometry, filled by vessels that are not phalanx equipped and therefore not bound by the same engagement arc constraints. By 6:22 in the morning, when the last Larik Island contact reaches its position on the western end of the barrier line, the formation is complete. 27 Iranian vessels across 17 nautical miles, and 11 gaps in the line filled by Allied naval vessels from 6 different nations: HMS Diamond, HMAS Hobart, FS Alsace, and 8 more. The barrier is complete. The gaps are filled. The new mechanism for the Strait of Hormuz that Iran announced in point 12 of its 14-point peace proposal is operational, and it is blocked by the 36-nation coalition that signed the statement expressing readiness to contribute to safe passage. Iran built a wall. The coalition walked into every door. 6:22 in the morning. The standoff. 27 Iranian vessels holding position across the strait. 11 Allied vessels holding position in the gaps. Nobody moving. Nobody firing. The Strait of Hormuz at 6:22 in the morning is the quietest it has been in 65 days of war, and the most tense it has been in the same period. The Fateh-class submarine on bearing 214 is still holding at depth, still not moving, still waiting for gaps that no longer exist. In the Combat Information Center, Callaway looks at his tactical display for 11 seconds. Then he picks up the circuit to park. Commander, park. The gaps are filled. Yes, sir. All 11. The submarine on bearing 214, still at depth, still holding. Callaway looks at the display. He looks at the Allied vessels in the gaps. He looks at the Iranian barrier line still holding its positions. He picks up the circuit to Washington. Sir, the gaps are filled. 36-nation coalition. No shots fired. The barrier is operational. The gaps are blocked. The submarine is contained. Iran built the mechanism. We built the lock. The response from Washington comes back at 6:26 in the morning, 4 minutes after the gaps were filled. 4 minutes that contained the longest 11-second pause in Callaway's career, when he was waiting to find out if someone in Washington was going to do something that unraveled everything that had just happened. The response is one sentence. Well done. Hold position. Callaway reads it for 2 seconds. He transmits to the full formation. All units, hold position. Maintain gap coverage. Do not engage barrier contacts. The standoff begins at 6:26 in the morning. In Tehran, the response to the filled gaps arrives at the Iranian Foreign Ministry at 6:29 in the morning, 7 minutes after the barrier line completed, 3 minutes after the gaps were filled. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson reads the tactical summary from the IRGC Naval Command for 6 seconds. Then she picks up the phone to the Pakistani intermediary. The call lasts 4 minutes and 11 seconds. At 6:33 in the morning, the Pakistani intermediary transmits a message to the U.S. State Department. Iran requests direct naval coordination talks to discuss the new mechanism for the Strait of Hormuz Transit Protocol. Iran proposes an immediate meeting between IRGC Naval Command and U.S. Navy Pacific Fleet representatives. Iran acknowledges the presence of Allied vessels in the designated transit corridor positions. Iran suggests this demonstrates a willingness by both sides to engage in practical maritime cooperation. The State Department reads the message for 14 seconds. Then they pick up the phone to Callaway. Admiral, Iran just asked for a meeting. Callaway looks at his display. 27 Iranian vessels still holding position in the barrier line. 11 Allied vessels still holding position in the gaps. The Fateh-class submarine still holding at depth on bearing 214. Everything still. Everything waiting. The mechanism Iran built is sitting across 17 nautical miles of water at 6:33 in the morning. The lock the coalition built is sitting in every gap in that mechanism. And Iran is asking for a meeting, not because the mechanism failed. The mechanism is operational. 27 vessels in a line across the strait. The gaps exist exactly where Iran engineered them. Iran is asking for a meeting because the gaps are filled. Because the thing Iran designed the gaps for cannot use them as long as Allied vessels are sitting in them. Because the legal framework Iran built for the new mechanism assumed the coalition would not fill the gaps without firing. Because firing on the barrier contacts was the trap, and the coalition did not fire. The coalition walked into the gaps instead. And now Iran has a choice. Hold the barrier line indefinitely, while Allied vessels sit in the gaps, and the strait is closed to everyone, including the Iranian civilian vessels Iran permitted to transit, or negotiate. From a position where Iran's mechanism is operational but non-functional, Because every door in the wall is occupied by a vessel that arrived without firing a shot. Callaway transmits to Washington at 6:33 and 44 seconds. Sir, Iran asked for a meeting because we filled the gaps. They built the lock. We changed the key. The meeting is the concession. Recommend we accept. Washington responds at 6:34 and 9 seconds. 25 seconds. Accepted. Arrange the meeting. The barrier line begins a slow withdrawal at 6:39 in the morning. Not ordered by the Foreign Ministry. Not announced by Iranian state media. A gradual reduction in formation density as individual IRGC patrol craft and civilian vessels begin returning to their home ports. Not running. Not retreating. Withdrawing in the same deliberate pace of a force that built something real and is choosing to negotiate around it, rather than maintain something that is not working. The Feta-class submarine on bearing 214 begins its own withdrawal at 6:41 in the morning, turning northeast, heading toward the deeper water off Bandar Abbas. The submarine that has been holding position for nearly an hour, waiting for gaps that were filled in the 14 minutes between 6:17 and 6:31 in the morning, begins its return at 6:41 without having moved through any of the gaps it was designed to use. In the Combat Information Center, Callaway watches the withdrawal for 6 minutes. He watches every contact turn north. He watches the Fateh-class submarine track head northeast on his sonar display. He watches the Allied vessels hold their gap positions until the barrier line has reduced to 7 contacts at 6:44 in the morning, and then to 3 at 6:47, and then to none at 6:51. 65 days of war. 1 morning, 1 barrier, 1 mechanism. 32 seconds of analysis from a commander who noticed the gap geometry at 6:14 and 51 seconds. 11 Allied vessels responding in 11 minutes to fill 11 gaps without a single shot fired, and 1 Fateh-class submarine returning to port with whatever Iran was going to move through those gaps still aboard. He picks up the circuit to Park at 6:52 in the morning. Commander Park, the barrier is down. Yes, sir. The submarine is withdrawing. Yes, sir. Walk me through 6:14 and 51 seconds. When you saw the phalanx correlation, Park looks at her display. The 27 contacts that appeared at 6:14. The gap analysis she ran in 32 seconds. The Feta-class contact on bearing 214 that she noticed at 5:44 and had been watching for 30 minutes before the barrier contacts appeared. The option 4 she presented to Callaway at 6:17 because it was the only option that closed the gaps without creating the international incident. Iran was engineering the barrier to produce. Sir, the gaps were not random. They were sized and positioned. When I overlaid them on the phalanx coverage map and they correlated exactly, I understood that the barrier was not the weapon. The gaps were the weapon. And the gaps were sized for the submarine on bearing 214 that I had been watching since 5:44. The barrier was the legal mechanism. The gaps were the operational mechanism. And the submarine was the actual mechanism Iran wanted to establish precedent for. Fill the gaps with Allied hulls, and you close all 3 mechanisms simultaneously without firing a shot. Callaway is quiet for 7 seconds. You had the Fateh contact since 5:44. Yes, sir. You correlated the gap geometry to the submarine in 32 seconds. Yes, sir. He does not respond to that for a moment. Then he picks up the circuit to every formation unit simultaneously. All strike group and Allied units. This is Lincoln Actual. Outstanding work. Every unit that moved into a gap today prevented a precedent that would have changed the legal status of this strait for a generation. You did not fire. You did not engage. You moved into the gaps without orders that specifically told you to, and you filled them before Iran could use them. Hold your positions until the Allied coordination meeting is confirmed. Then we go home. In the White House Situation Room, the after-action summary arrives at 7:14 in the morning, 48 minutes after the barrier line began forming. The summary is 4 paragraphs. The most important sentence is in the 3rd paragraph. Iran's new mechanism for the Strait of Hormuz was operational for 49 minutes. During those 49 minutes, it was non-functional because Allied vessels occupied every engineered gap in the formation. No shots were fired, no ceasefire violations occurred, no international incidents were generated. The barrier withdrew voluntarily. Iran has requested coordination talks. The legal status of the strait has not changed. The mechanism failed not because it was not well designed. It was extraordinarily well designed. It failed because one commander noticed the gap geometry at 6:14 and 51 seconds and built a 32-second analysis that produced option 4, and because 36 nations responded to option 4 in 11 minutes, and because every Allied captain who received the transmission understood in 11 minutes what Iran had spent months engineering. that the new mechanism for the Strait of Hormuz was built around a specific assumption that the coalition would not walk into the gaps, that the coalition would stand at the barrier line and debate the rules of engagement while the gaps remained open and the submarine moved through them and the legal precedent was established. The assumption was wrong. The coalition walked into the gaps without firing, without orders that specifically authorized it, without a rules of engagement framework that had been written for this scenario because nobody had written one. They walked into the gaps because one commander sent a transmission at 6:17 and 14 seconds that contained three things: the analysis, the coordinates, and one line of text. We need hulls in these gaps. Your flag, your call. And the answer that came back from HMS Diamond at 6:17 and 41 seconds and 27 seconds from a Royal Navy officer who read three things and made a decision in 27 seconds was the answer that decided the fate of the Strait of Hormuz on day 65 of the war. 4 words. We are already moving. The Strait of Hormuz is open at 7:14 in the morning. Not to commercial traffic. Not yet. The mines are still there. The legal negotiations are still ongoing. The 14-point proposal is still on the table in Islamabad. But the mechanism Iran built to control who moves through the strait and under what conditions is not operational. It was operational for 49 minutes. It was non-functional for every one of those 49 minutes. And the submarine that was going to establish the precedent for the new mechanism is returning to Bandar Abbas with whatever it was carrying still aboard. The barrier is gone. The gaps are empty. The Allied vessels are holding their positions. And somewhere in the formation at 7:14 in the morning, a commander is writing her engagement log in the same precise clinical language she uses for every watch. 27 contacts detected 6:14. Barrier formation confirmed 6:14 and 19 seconds. Gap geometry correlated to phalanx coverage 6:14 and 51 seconds. Fateh-class contact bearing 214 correlated to gap dimensions 6:15 and 04 seconds. Option 4 transmitted 6:17 and 14 seconds. All 11 gaps filled by Allied vessels 6:31 in the morning. Barrier withdrawal complete 6:51. Submarine withdrawal confirmed 6:41. No shots fired. No ceasefire violations. No international incidents. She adds 3 lines at the end that are not part of the standard engagement log format. The barrier was not the mechanism. The gaps were the mechanism. The submarine was the reason for the gaps. Fill the gaps, and you close everything Iran built simultaneously. Without creating the incident, Iran built everything around. Iran called the strait a mechanism today. They were right. It is a mechanism. It has been a mechanism since February 28th. The question has always been who the mechanism serves. Today, the answer was everybody who responded to, "We need hulls in these gaps," in less than 30 seconds. That is the mechanism that matters. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed to commercial traffic. The mines are still there. The negotiations are still ongoing. 20,000 seafarers are still trapped. The war that Trump declared terminated yesterday is quiet again this morning. Quiet in the way that a strait with Allied naval vessels holding positions in engineered gaps and a Fateh-class submarine returning to port and a 14-point peace proposal sitting on a table in Islamabad is quiet. Not peaceful, not over, not resolved, but quiet for now. Waiting for whatever Iran calls the next mechanism, and whatever the next 32-second analysis says about the gaps in it. At 8:14 in the morning on day 81 of the war, the Pakistani intermediary transmits Iran's formal response to the latest American ceasefire proposal. The transmission takes 11 seconds. It travels from Islamabad to the State Department's secure relay at 8:14 and 09 seconds. It is the most anticipated diplomatic transmission since the ceasefire began on April 8th. Iran's response to a proposal that includes ending the nuclear program, opening the strait, limiting ballistic missiles, and sanctions relief. The response that Energy Secretary Wright said was coming very soon this morning. The response that the Qatar Prime Minister flew to Miami to discuss with Rubio and Witkoff and Vance yesterday. The response that every oil market on Earth has been pricing in for 48 hours. It arrives at the State Department at 8:14 and 09 seconds on day 81 of the war. At 8:14 and 09 seconds, Brigadier General Hassan Mohammadi receives a different transmission. Not a diplomatic cable, an operational order from the IRGC Strategic Operations Center. The order that was prepared 4 hours ago when Mohammadi first learned through internal channels that Iran's response to the American proposal would be transmitted at 8:14 in the morning. An operational order that Mohammadi did not request and did not initiate but received because he is the commander of IRGC Naval District 3, and the operational order requires a Naval District 3 asset. The order activates 3 attack elements simultaneously. 23 IRGC fast attack craft departing Bandar Abbas and Qasem Island. 2 F-14 Tomcats already airborne on bearing 031 since 7:58 in the morning. 1 Noor coastal missile battery pre-warming since 4:14 in the morning when the operational planning began. All 3 targeting USS Abraham Lincoln in the Central Gulf. All 3 timed to arrive at the Lincoln's position at 8:44 in the morning, 30 minutes after Iran's diplomatic response reaches Washington. The attack is not Mohammadi's plan. Mohammadi is reading the operational order the same way USS Gonzalez's commander Elena Park is reading her passive sensor display at 8:14 in the morning. With recognition, she has been watching the attack build since 7:14 in the morning, not from passive sensor anomalies or acoustic contacts or pre-launch emissions. From a signals intelligence intercept she received at 7:14 that told her everything she needed to know. The intercept contained 1 sentence from the IRGC Strategic Operations Center internal planning channel. When the response transmits, we demonstrate that the response was transmitted from a position of strength. 7 words. When the response transmits, she flagged the intercept at 7:16, filed a report at 7:19. It came back at 7:44. Logged and noted. Signals intelligence assessment ongoing. Continue monitoring. She has been continuing monitoring for 58 minutes. At 8:11 in the morning, she stops monitoring and starts transmitting directly to Callaway. Sir, I have a signals intelligence intercept from 7:14 this morning from the IRGC Strategic Operations Center planning channel. 1 sentence. When the response transmits, we demonstrate that the response was transmitted from a position of strength. Sir, the response transmits at 8:14. Whatever demonstration they planned activates at 8:14. I have 23 fast attack departures from Bandar Abbas and Qasem Island since 7:58. 2 F-14 thermal contacts bearing 031 running cold since 7:58. Nor pre-launch emission on bearing 031 active since 7:44. This is a coordinated 3-axis attack on USS Abraham Lincoln, timed to activate the moment Iran's diplomatic response reaches Washington. The attack is designed to make the response read differently. A response transmitted while the carrier is under attack says something different than a response transmitted in silence. I filed a report at 7:19. It came back logged and noted. I am not filing a second report. I am transmitting directly because the response transmits in 3 minutes and I have 58 minutes of solution building ready, and 3 minutes is enough time if Callaway authorizes now. Callaway reads it in 5 seconds. He picks up CENTCOM at 8:11 and 44 seconds. Sir, read what Gonzalez just sent me. Read the signals intelligence intercept. Read it now. CENTCOM reads it in 11 seconds. The response comes back in 22 seconds. Weapons free. Full engagement authority. Protect the Lincoln, Callaway. Transmits to the formation circuit at 8:12 and 09 seconds. All strike group units, this is Lincoln actual. Full weapons free. 3-axis attack inbound, time to the diplomatic response transmission at 8:14. 23 fast attack contacts 2-axis. 2 F-14 thermal contacts bearing 031. Nor coastal battery warming bearing 031. All 3 timed to activate at 8:14. Gonzalez has engagement solutions built since 7:44. Cap section activate now. All units execute. The cap section has been at 38,000 feet since 8 o'clock in the morning. 2 F-35C Lightning IIs from USS Abraham Lincoln's Carrier Air Wing. Watching. They received Park's formation circuit warning at 8:12 and 09 seconds. They have been watching the fast attack contacts on passive sensors since 7:58. 14 minutes of passive track. The lead F-35C acknowledges in 4 words, Lincoln, we are ready. In just 32 minutes, Iran's demonstration of strength will either change how Washington reads the diplomatic response, or it will fail, and the diplomatic response will be read in silence. To understand what the IRGC Strategic Operations Center built at 4:14 in the morning, you need to understand what simultaneously attacking USS Abraham Lincoln, the moment Iran's diplomatic response reaches Washington, actually does to the American decision-making process that reads that response. Because the people who read Iran's diplomatic response in the State Department at 8:14 in the morning are not reading it in isolation. They are reading it while the reports of an incoming coordinated attack on a carrier strike group are arriving on the same secure channels. They are reading Iran's conditions for peace while simultaneously processing the information that Iran has launched 23 fast attack craft and 2 F-14 Tomcats and a Nor missile at the carrier group. The diplomatic response says Iran seeks to permanently end the war on all fronts and ensure the security of shipping. The operational reality arriving simultaneously says Iran launched a 3-axis carrier attack the moment that sentence was transmitted. The two messages together say something that neither message says alone. They say Iran is negotiating and Iran is attacking at the same moment with the same intent. The intent being that the United States should understand that accepting Iran's terms is not the same as Iran capitulating to American pressure, that Iran is coming to the table from a position where it can still project force against a carrier strike group even on day 81 of the war. The IRGC Strategic Operations Center built this attack not to sink USS Abraham Lincoln. It built this attack to be the context in which Washington reads Iran's diplomatic response. A carrier under attack is a carrier whose government is being reminded that the war is not over, and that the terms of the peace must reflect that reality. Park understood this at 7:14 when she read the intercept. When the response transmits, we demonstrate that the response was transmitted from a position of strength. The demonstration was never about military victory. It was always about diplomatic context. 8:12 in the morning. The Noor pre-launch sequence. 2 minutes. The Noor coastal battery on bearing 031 has been warming since 4:14 in the morning. 7 hours of pre-launch preparation. The most patient pre-launch sequence Park has ever tracked. She has been building the SM-2 fire control solution against this specific launcher since 7:44 in the morning, when the pre-launch emission first appeared on her passive sensor display. 28 minutes of solution building. The solution she built is the most precise she has ever constructed, because 28 minutes against a stationary launcher at a known position is not the same as 30 seconds against a pre-launch sequence you just detected. The launcher's exact position, the Noor's exact approach vector calculated from the battery orientation, the fire control geometry that puts the SM-2 at the Noor's optimal intercept point before the missile reaches sea-skimming altitude. She has built all of it in 28 minutes. The Noor launches at 8:14 and 09 seconds. The same second, Iran's diplomatic response reaches the State Department. Both transmissions at 8:14 and 09 seconds. The missile and the proposal arriving at their respective destinations simultaneously. The SM-2 launches at 8:14 and 11 seconds, 2 seconds after the Noor. The fire control solution that 28 minutes of building produced sends the SM-2 to the Noor's position before the Noor has completed its initial climb phase. The SM-2 reaches the Noor at 8:14 and 41 seconds, 30 seconds after launch. The SM-2 detonates 9 meters from the Noor's airframe, inside the lethal fragmentation radius by 41 meters. The Noor comes apart before it reaches sea-skimming altitude. No terminal phase, no pressure wave, no debris reaching any vessel in the formation. The Noor launcher that warmed for 7 hours and fired 1 missile at the moment Iran's diplomatic response transmitted is rubble at 8:15 and 09 seconds after 2 GBU-38S from the lead F-35C reach its position. Park transmitted the launcher coordinates to the cap section at 8:14 and 43 seconds. 2 seconds after the Noor was destroyed, the cap section fired at 8:14 and 51 seconds. 8 seconds after receiving the coordinates, because 8 seconds is how long it takes to program a GBU-38 when you have already descended to weapons release altitude, because you anticipated the strike authorization. 8:14 and 44 seconds. The F-14 Tomcats, a WG-9 active. 19 seconds. The 2 F-14 Tomcats that launched from Bandar Abbas at 7:51 in the morning and have been running cold on bearing 031 for 23 minutes go active at 8:14 and 44 seconds. 35 seconds after Iran's diplomatic response reached the State Department. Both AUG-9 fire control radars simultaneously. Already locked. Already committed, both targeting USS Abraham Lincoln, not USS Gonzalez, not USS Nitsa, the carrier, the symbol, the vessel whose photograph under attack will appear on every news network on Earth and change how every editor headlines Iran's diplomatic response. The Phoenix missiles leave the F-14 rails at 8:14 and 51 seconds. 4 missiles, all 4 targeting the Abraham Lincoln. Park has been building the SM-6 solutions against these F-14 contacts since 7:58 in the morning. 16 minutes of solution building. The solutions are constructed against the F-14's exact approach vector and altitude profile because 16 minutes of passive thermal track gives you the approach geometry before the A-9s go active. She fires the first SM-6 at 8:14 and 54 seconds, 3 seconds after the A-9s went active, from 22 nautical miles. The SM-6 solution is built around the F-14's 16-minute approach track, not around the 3 seconds of active radar data since the A-9S went live. It is a fundamentally better solution than any SM-6 she has ever fired in 76 days of engagements, because it was built with 16 minutes of track data instead of the standard 20 to 40 seconds. The first SM-6 reaches the first Phoenix at 8:15 and 14 seconds. The SM-6 detonates 6 meters from the first Phoenix airframe, inside the lethal fragmentation radius by 44 meters. First Phoenix destroyed. The second SM-6 launches at 8:14 and 58 seconds. Same quality solution. Reaches the second Phoenix at 8:15 and 19 seconds. SM-6 detonates 8 meters from the second Phoenix. The second Phoenix destroyed. The third SM-6 launches at 8:15 and 04 seconds against the third Phoenix, which is targeting the Lincoln from a slightly offset approach vector designed to complicate simultaneous engagement. Park anticipated the offset from the thermal track geometry. She manually adjusted the third SM-6 solution for the offset at 8:12 in the morning. 2 minutes of manual adjustment baked into the solution before the 89s went active. The third SM-6 reaches the third Phoenix at 8:15 and 24 seconds and detonates 7 meters from the airframe. Third Phoenix destroyed. The fourth SM-6 launches at 8:15 and 09 seconds against the fourth Phoenix targeting the Lincoln. Same manual offset adjustment, same solution quality. Reaches the fourth Phoenix at 8:15 and 29 seconds. Detonates 11 meters from the airframe. Fourth Phoenix destroyed. 4 AEM-54 Phoenix missiles targeted at USS Abraham Lincoln. All 4 destroyed by USS Gonzales from 22 nautical miles before any Phoenix came within 8 nautical miles of the carrier. The carrier never had to maneuver. The carrier never had to fire a single defensive weapon. The carrier kept its course and speed through the entire air engagement because Park's solutions were built with 16 minutes of passive track, and the Phoenix missiles never got close enough to require the Lincoln to respond. The F-35C wingman fires 2 AIM-120D AMRAAMs at the aggressing F-14S at 8:15 and 44 seconds. Both F-14S come apart within 12 seconds. 2 Tomcats gone. Air threat cleared at 8:15 and 56 seconds. 1 minute and 12 seconds after the AWG-9s went active. 8:14 in the morning. 23 fast attack contacts, 2 axes, still closing. The 23 IRGC fast attack craft that departed Bandar Abbas and Keshem Island at 7:58 in the morning have been running at 55 knots for 16 minutes. They are inside 7.4 nautical miles of the formation at 8:14 and 09 seconds when the NOR launches. They are inside 6.1 nautical miles at 8:15 and 56 seconds when the air threat clears. 12 contacts from Bandar Abbas on bearing 019. 11 contacts from Keshem Island on bearing 271. The cap section lead descends from 38,000 feet and is already approaching weapons release range on the northern Bandar Abbas formation at 8:16 in the morning. He has 16 minutes of passive track on both formations. He has their positions, their headings, their approach vectors, their exact formation geometry, including the 3 contact gap in the northwestern edge of the Bandar Abbas formation that indicates a damaged or late departing vessel that is running behind the main formation. He fires 4 GBU-38 guided bombs at the northern Bandar Abbas formation lead contacts at 8:16 and 04 seconds. 4 simultaneous impacts at 8:16 and 26 seconds. Lead contacts gone. 4 more GBU-38s at 8:16 and 34 seconds. 4 more impacts at 8:16 and 56 seconds. 8 contacts destroyed from the northern formation. 4 contacts remaining from Bandar Abbas, inside 4.9 nautical miles. The wingman F-35C takes the Keshem Island southern formation simultaneously. 4 GBU-38S at 8:16 and 09 seconds. 4 impacts at 8:16 and 31 seconds. 4 more at 8:16 and 41 seconds. 4 more impacts at 8:17 and 03 seconds. 8 contacts destroyed from the southern formation. 3 contacts remaining from Keshem Island, inside 4.4 nautical miles. The cap section lead fires his last 2 GBU-38S at the Bandar Abbas remaining contacts at 8:17 and 09 seconds. 2 impacts at 8:17 and 31 seconds. 2 contacts destroyed. 2 Bandar Abbas contacts remaining, inside 3.9 nautical miles. 3 minutes and 31 seconds from the formation. The wingman fires his last 2 GBU-38S at the Keshem Island, remaining contacts at 8:17 and 14 seconds. 2 impacts at 8:17 and 36 seconds. 2 contacts destroyed. 1 Keshem Island contact remaining, inside 3.4 nautical miles. 3 minutes and 6 seconds. 5 fast attack contacts total surviving. All 5 inside 4 nautical miles. The Mk-45 on USS Gonzales activates at 8:17 and 44 seconds. First round at the northernmost surviving contact. Hit. Contact stops at 3.6 nautical miles. Second round at the next contact. Hit. Contact stops at 3.4 nautical miles. Third round at the Keshem Island survivor. Hit. Contact stops at 3.1 nautical miles. 3 contacts stopped by gunfire in 31 seconds. 2 contacts remaining. Inside 3.2 nautical miles. 2 minutes and 54 seconds. The Phalanx Sea IDS activates at 8:18 and 14 seconds. Both remaining contacts inside Phalanx engagement range simultaneously. 3 burst sequences at each. The first contact stops at 8:18 and 24 seconds, 2.9 nautical miles from the formation. The second contact takes 4 burst sequences. Phalanx reacquires after each. The second contact stops at 8:18 and 41 seconds, 2.7 nautical miles from the formation. All 23 fast attack contacts destroyed or stopped at 8:18 and 41 seconds. 23 contacts cleared by the cap section, GBU-38S and the Mk-45, and the Phalanx in 2 minutes and 37 seconds from when the cap section reached weapons release range. Callaway reads the complete engagement picture at 8:19 in the morning. 1 NOR destroyed, 4 Phoenix missiles destroyed, 2 F-14S destroyed, 23 fast attack craft destroyed or stopped, 0 damage to USS Abraham Lincoln, 0 casualties across the formation. He sits with the display for 6 seconds, then he picks up the circuit to CENTCOM. Sir, 3-axis coordinated attack on the Lincoln, time to the diplomatic response transmission at 8:14. All 3 acts cleared, 0 hull damage, 0 casualties. The Lincoln is operational. The diplomatic response reached Washington at 8:14 and 09 seconds. The attack that was designed to be its context failed at 8:18 and 41 seconds. Iran's response reached Washington in silence. Operational silence. The demonstration of strength that the IRGC Strategic Operations Center planned was the context for the diplomatic response. The context did not materialize. In Washington, the State Department readers who received Iran's diplomatic response at 8:14 and 09 seconds are reading it at 8:19 in the morning without knowing yet what happened in the Strait in the 32 minutes after it arrived. They will know when CENTCOM's engagement report reaches the Situation Room at 8:31. They will read the diplomatic response and the engagement report side by side. Iran's conditions for peace and the complete failure of the attack that was designed to make those conditions read differently. Callaway picks up the circuit to Park at 8:21 in the morning. Commander Park, the signals intelligence intercept at 7:14. Walk me through what you understood when you read it. Park looks at her display. The IRGC Strategic Operations Center Planning Channel intercept. When the response transmits, we demonstrate that the response was transmitted from a position of strength. 7 words that told her the attack time, the attack purpose, and the attack design in 1 sentence. Sir, the intercept said when the response transmits, not if, not at 0800. When the response transmits, it was timed to the diplomatic cable, not to a military objective. The attack was never designed to sink the Lincoln. It was designed to be the environment in which Washington read Iran's response. A carrier under attack when the response arrives changes how the response reads. A carrier under attack says Iran is not negotiating from weakness. It says Iran can still reach you while talking to you. The IRGC needed the Lincoln to be under active attack at 8:14 exactly because that is when the response transmitted. So I needed the engagement solutions ready before 8:14, not before the attack, before the response, before the diplomatic cable, because the cable was the trigger. Callaway is quiet for 9 seconds, the longest 9 seconds in any circuit conversation Park has had in 81 days. Then he picks up the CENTCOM line. Sir, I need to tell you about a signals intelligence officer who read a 7-word intercept at 7:14 in the morning and understood that Iran's diplomatic response and its carrier attack were the same operation and built 58 minutes of engagement solutions against an attack that was designed to be diplomatic context and cleared everything before the diplomatic context could be established. Sir, the response reached Washington at 8:14 and 09 seconds. It was read in silence because the demonstration of strength that was supposed to accompany it was cleared at 8:18 and 41 seconds. Iran wanted Washington to read the response under fire. Washington read it in silence. That is the outcome of one signals intelligence intercept and 58 minutes of solution building and a report that came back logged and noted. In the Situation Room at 8:31 in the morning, the President's National Security Team reads Iran's diplomatic response and the CENTCOM engagement summary side by side, Iran's conditions for peace, and the complete failure of the attack designed to be those conditions context. One of the senior advisors says one sentence: Iran tried to make the response read stronger than it is. The engagement summary says it read exactly as strong as it actually is. The Qatar Prime Minister, who flew to Miami yesterday and met Vance alone with no aides present, receives a forwarded summary of the engagement at 8:44 in the morning. He reads it for 8 seconds. He calls Witkoff directly at 8:46. He says one sentence in English: the response is real. The attack was theater. Tell the President the response is real. Park writes the engagement log at 8:51 in the morning. Signals Intelligence Intercept received 714, 7 words. When the response transmits, we demonstrate that the response was transmitted from a position of strength. Report filed 719, logged and noted 744. Direct transmission to Admiral Callaway 811. Noor destroyed 8:14 and 41 seconds. 4 Phoenix missiles destroyed 8:15 and 29 seconds. 2 F-14S destroyed 8:15 and 56 seconds. 23 fast attack contacts cleared 8:18 and 41 seconds. All threats cleared before the Situation Room received the engagement summary. Diplomatic response reached Washington 8:14 and 09 seconds. Engagement cleared 8:18 and 41 seconds. The response was read in silence. She adds 4 lines at the end that are not part of the standard engagement log format. The attack was not designed to sink the Lincoln. It was designed to be the context for 7 words transmitted simultaneously from Islamabad. When the response transmits, we demonstrate that the response was transmitted from a position of strength. The demonstration failed because the engagement solutions were built from a 7-word intercept 58 minutes before the first weapon fired. The response reached Washington in silence. That is what logged and noted produces when the person who filed the report keeps building the solutions anyway. At 8:19 in the morning, on day 75 of the war, the Iranian frigate IRGC fires on a South Korean cargo ship, not on a U.S. Navy vessel, not on a British destroyer, on the MV Busan carrier, a South Korean-flagged cargo ship that has been cleared by Iran's own transit authorization list since day 61 of the war. A vessel whose flag Iran specifically permitted, whose company paid the coordination fees Iran required, whose transit window was approved through the Pakistani intermediary channel 4 days ago. The MV Busan carrier is not an unauthorized vessel in the Strait of Hormuz. It is the most authorized civilian vessel in the strait this morning, and the IRGC fires one 76mm naval gun round across its bow at 8:19 and 09 seconds, and then a second round into its forward superstructure at 8:19 and 31 seconds. Without warning and without hailing and without any communication on any frequency. The second round starts a fire in the Busan carrier's forward cargo hold. The crew of 24 South Korean sailors is attempting to suppress it at 8:19 and 44 seconds when the ship's captain sends his distress transmission. Mayday. Mayday. MV Busan carrier. Iranian warship firing. Forward cargo fire. Crew attempting suppression. Position follows. The distress transmission reaches USS Nitsa at 8:19 and 51 seconds. Commander Aaron Webb reads it for 3 seconds. He looks at the IRGC's position on his surface radar. 4.1 nautical miles northeast, running on a course that has already taken it past the MV Busan carrier after firing. Not attacking further, having made its point. Webb looks at the Busan carrier's position, holding position in the northern corridor. Forward fire visible on infrared from Nitsa's position. He looks at HMS Diamond 1.4 nautical miles to his starboard. He picks up the direct circuit to Captain James Hartley at 8:20 in the morning. James, Sahan just fired on the Busan carrier. South Korean flagged. Iran authorized transit. 2 rounds, forward fire. I am moving to assist. Are you with me? Hartley answers in 2 seconds. We are with you. Moving. Both destroyers turn toward the MV Busan carrier at 8:20 and 14 seconds, running at maximum speed. 4.9 nautical miles at 31 knots. 9 minutes. Webb picks up the circuit to Callaway at 8:20 and 19 seconds. Sir, IRGC fired on MV Busan carrier at 8:19. South Korean flagged Iran authorized vessel. 2 76mm rounds. Forward cargo fire. Crew attempting suppression. Nitsa and Diamond moving to assist. IRGC is withdrawing northeast at 22 knots. Request weapons free on the Sahand if it fires again, and request clarification on ROE for engaging an Iranian naval frigate during a ceasefire, when that frigate just fired on a permitted civilian vessel. Callaway reads it in 4 seconds. He picks up the CENTCOM circuit. CENTCOM comes back in 31 seconds. Assist the Busan carrier. Weapons free on the Sahand if it fires again. Do not pursue the Sahand. The ceasefire status is being assessed at the highest level. Hold the situation until Washington tells you what the Sahand firing means diplomatically. Webb acknowledges. He does not like hold the situation as an operational instruction when the Busan carrier is on fire and 24 South Korean sailors are fighting it with fire hoses. But hold the situation means do not shoot the Sahand unless it shoots again and the Sahand is withdrawing northeast at 22 knots and has not fired a third time. He can live with hold the situation for the 9 minutes it takes to reach the Busan carrier. To understand what the Iris Sahand did at 8:19 in the morning on day 75 of the war, you need to understand what firing on an Iran-authorized South Korean cargo ship actually means as a strategic statement. Because the Sahand did not fire on an enemy, it fired on a friend. South Korea is one of the 12 nations whose vessels Iran specifically permitted to transit the strait as part of the confidence-building framework that Iran's own foreign ministry negotiated. South Korea's government has been one of the most vocal supporters of the Pakistani mediation process. South Korea sent a diplomatic note to Tehran 3 days ago, expressing support for a negotiated resolution. The MV Busan carrier's transit was specifically authorized because Seoul is one of the countries Iran wants to keep neutral and grateful and supportive of Iran's position in the negotiations. And the Iris Sahand fired 2 76mm rounds at it at 8:19 in the morning without warning and set its forward cargo hold on fire. The message is not aimed at Seoul. Seoul is the medium. The message is aimed at Washington and Islamabad and every capital that has been telling Iran that if it cooperates with the confidence-building framework, the negotiations will produce a deal that Iran can accept. Iran's answer at 8:19 in the morning is 2 76mm rounds into the forward superstructure of the most symbolically cooperative civilian vessel in the strait. The message is that Iran's cooperation is conditional on Washington cooperating back, and that an authorization list is not a guarantee, and that a confidence-building framework is only as strong as Iran wants it to be on any given morning. And that on this particular morning, with Trump saying the ceasefire is on massive life support, and the deal called totally unacceptable, and Iran saying it will never bow, the Sahand's captain decided the confidence-building framework was not worth protecting for one more day. The Sahand did not fire on the Busan carrier to hurt South Korea. It fired to demonstrate that Iran controls the strait, that authorized or unauthorized is a distinction Iran makes, and that Iran can unmake it. With 76mm rounds, at 8:19 in the morning, 8:20 in the morning, USS Nitsa and HMS Diamond. 9 minutes to the Busan carrier. Webb has the Iris Sahand withdrawing on his surface radar at 8:20 and 44 seconds. 22 knots northeast, pulling away from the Busan carrier, pulling away from Nitsa and Diamond. Not attacking again, not accelerating, not turning. Withdrawing at 22 knots on a course that will take it back to Bandar Abbas in approximately 40 minutes. Webb watches it for 4 seconds. He looks at the Busan carrier ahead, infrared showing the forward fire clearly. He picks up the Busan carrier on the bridge-to-bridge at 8:21 in the morning. MV Busan carrier. This is USS Nitsa. We are 9 minutes out. Give me your status. The Busan carrier captain responds immediately. Nitsa, this is Busan carrier. Forward cargo fire in holds 2 and 3. Crew attempting suppression with fixed system. Fixed system is not controlling the fire. We may need external assistance. No crew casualties yet. 24 crew all accounted for. Fire is spreading toward hold 4. Webb looks at the 9 minutes on his clock. Hold 4 is the aft section of the forward cargo area. If the fire reaches hold 4 before they have external suppression, the Busan carrier is going to lose the entire forward section. He picks up the circuit to Hartley. James. Busan carrier's fixed system is not controlling the forward fire. They need external suppression before it reaches hold 4. I want to put a damage control team on board the moment we reach them. Hartley comes back in 2 seconds. Diamond has a damage control team ready. We will go alongside port. You take starboard. Webb acknowledges. He picks up the Busan carrier again. Busan carrier, this is Nitsa. We are coming alongside starboard at arrival. Diamond alongside port. Have your crew concentrate on hold 4 and keep hold 3 watered down until we get our teams aboard. You have 8 minutes. The Busan carrier captain answers in 3 words. Understood. Thank you. At 8:22 and 09 seconds, 2 Iranian F-14 Tomcats go active on bearing 031. Both AWG-9 fire control radars simultaneously. Already locked. Already committed. Already targeting USS Nitsa and HMS Diamond. Park had the thermal contacts on bearing 031 since 8:14 in the morning from USS Gonzalez's passive sensor display 22 nautical miles south. She flagged them at 8:16. She has been building SM-6 solutions against both contacts since 8:16. 6 minutes of solution building. She transmits to the formation circuit at 8:22 and 11 seconds. 2 seconds after the A9S go active. All formation units, this is Gonzalez EW. 2 F-14 contacts bearing 031A, WG-9 active. Phoenix missiles already off the rails targeting Nitsa and Diamond. I have SM-6 solutions built against both contacts since 8/16. I am engaging now. She does not ask for authorization. The weapons-free order from CENTCOM at 8:22 and 44 seconds of the previous day's engagement is still in effect. She fires the first SM-6 at 8:22 and 14 seconds, 3 seconds after the 89s went active, from 22 nautical miles. The SM-6 solution she has been building for 6 minutes is the cleanest solution she has ever launched. The SM-6 reaches the first F-14's Phoenix missile at 8:22 and 44 seconds. The SM-6 detonates 11 meters from the Phoenix airframe. First Phoenix destroyed, she fires the second SM-6 at 8:22 and 19 seconds targeting the second F-14's Phoenix. Same quality solution. 6 minutes of building. The second SM-6 reaches the second Phoenix at 8:22 and 51 seconds. The SM-6 detonates 14 meters from the second Phoenix airframe. Second Phoenix destroyed. 2 Phoenix missiles fired at USS Nitsa and HMS Diamond, both destroyed by SM-6s from USS Gonzales, 22 nautical miles away, before either missile reached 1.5 nautical miles of either target. Webb and Hartley never had to break from their approach to the Busan carrier. They never had to slow down. They never had to do anything except receive Park's transmission at 8:22 and 11 seconds and keep running toward a burning civilian ship at maximum speed. Park transmits to the F-35C cap section at 8:22 and 54 seconds. Dragon 2, this is Gonzales. 2 Phoenix missiles destroyed. 2 F-14 contacts still airborne bearing 031 having fired and aggressing. Request weapons free to engage. The CENTCOM authorization arrives through Callaway at 8:23 and 09 seconds. Gonzales weapons free on F-14 contacts. Dragon 2 weapons free. The lead F-35C fires 2 AIM-120 DAMRAAMS at 8:23 and 14 seconds. His wingman fires 1 second later. Both F-14S are aggressing at Mach 2.1. Their threat warning systems are dark. They have been dark since the 89s went active at 8:22 and 09 seconds. There is nothing behind them their sensors can find. Nothing except 4 AMRAAMs already running at Mach 4. The first F-14 crew gets 1 second of warning. The first AMRAAM arrives at 8:23 and 29 seconds. The lead F-14 comes apart at 8,000 feet. No ejection, no distress call. 1 Tomcat gone. The second AMRAAM arrives 5 seconds later. The second F-14 comes apart at 6,000 feet. 2 Tomcats gone. The air threat is clear at 8:23 and 34 seconds. 1 minute and 25 seconds after the 89s went active. From 22 nautical miles, Park stopped both Phoenix missiles and both F-35Cs, killed both F-14ES before Webb and Hartley had to do anything except keep running toward the Busan carrier. USS Nitsa comes alongside MV Busan carrier starboard at 8:29 in the morning, 9 minutes and 14 seconds after Webb turned to assist. HMS Diamond alongside port at 8:29 and 31 seconds. The damage control teams are aboard the Busan carrier at 8:30 in the morning. Forward cargo fire contained at 8:41 in the morning. 11 minutes of combined British and American damage control alongside a South Korean ship that Iran's own authorized list said was supposed to be safe. The fire is out at 8:44 in the morning. No crew casualties. 24 South Korean sailors alive. Hold 4 intact. The Busan carrier is still operational. In Seoul, the South Korean government receives the engagement summary at 8:47 in the morning. The Iris Sahand, the fire, USS Nitsa, and HMS Diamond arriving alongside. The British and American damage control teams. The fire contained. The crew alive. The South Korean Foreign Ministry transmits a statement at 8:51 in the morning. 1 sentence. South Korea thanks the United States and United Kingdom for their immediate assistance to the MV Busan carrier and calls on Iran to explain the attack on an authorized civilian vessel. In Tehran, the Iranian Foreign Ministry is already processing. Araghchi calls the IRGC Naval Command Chief of Staff at 8:22. He calls the Pakistani intermediary at 8:31. He transmits a statement at 8:49 in the morning. The Iris Sahan's engagement of the MV Busan carrier at 8:19 was not authorized by the Iranian government or the Foreign Ministry. The Iranian government condemns the action. The responsible commander will be held accountable. The confidence-building framework remains Iran's position. Callaway reads the Iranian statement at 8:51 and 44 seconds. He reads it for 6 seconds. Third unauthorized IRGC action in 5 days. PGF-114. Mohammadi, now the Sahand. He picks up the circuit to CENTCOM. Sir, the Sahand fired on a permitted South Korean vessel at 8:19. Foreign Ministry is saying unauthorized for the 3rd time in 5 days. Sir, at some point, unauthorized stops being an explanation and starts being a pattern. I need guidance on whether we are treating the next unauthorized IRGC action as an act of the Iranian government, regardless of what Tehran says afterward. CENTCOM comes back in 19 seconds. Noted, hold position. Washington is processing. In the Oval Office at 8:54 in the morning, Trump reads the engagement summary and the Iranian Foreign Ministry statement for 11 seconds. He puts the summary down. He picks up the phone to his national security advisor. 3 words. How many times? The national security advisor answers in 1 sentence. Sir, this is the 3rd unauthorized IRGC action in 5 days. PGF 114 on day 74. Mohammadi on day 70. The Sahand this morning. Trump is quiet for 4 seconds. Then he says 1 sentence. Find out if they are actually unauthorized, or if unauthorized is just what Tehran says after they fire. The engagement summary Park writes at 9:01 in the morning is the most specific she has ever written, because specificity is the only thing she can control when the question of whether unauthorized actually means unauthorized is being answered in a room she cannot see. 2 F-14 thermal contacts detected bearing 031 at 8:14, SM-6 solutions built from 8:16, a WG-9 active at 8:22 and 09 seconds. Both Phoenix missiles destroyed by SM-6. 2 F-14S destroyed by CAP section. Nitsa and Diamond reached Busan carrier at 8:29, fire contained at 8:41. No Busan carrier casualties. She adds 4 lines that are not part of the standard format. The Iris Sahand fired on an Iran-authorized South Korean civilian vessel. This is the 3rd IRGC action in 5 days that Tehran has described as unauthorized. The ceasefire is surviving these actions by the specific mechanism of each one being individually disowned. At some point, the pattern of disowning individual actions becomes indistinguishable from authorizing them. The ceasefire is not on massive life support anymore. It is on whatever comes after massive life support. The MV Busan carrier continues its transit at 9:04 in the morning, escorted by USS Nitsa and HMS Diamond. The ship that Iran's frigate fired on at 8:19 in the morning with a 76mm gun because the confidence-building framework was not worth protecting for one more day. The ship whose forward cargo fire the US and UK contained in 11 minutes. The ship whose crew of 24 is alive because 2 destroyers from 2 nations turned toward a burning civilian ship at 8:20 and arrived at 8:29 and stayed alongside until 8:41. The Busan carrier clears the northern exit of the strait at 9:31 in the morning. The 3rd IRGC action in 5 days is behind it. The ceasefire is ahead of whatever comes next. At 8:14 in the morning on day 81 of the war, the Pakistani intermediary transmits Iran's formal response to the latest American ceasefire proposal. The transmission takes 11 seconds. It travels from Islamabad to the State Department's secure relay at 8:14 and 09 seconds. It is the most anticipated diplomatic transmission since the ceasefire began on April 8th. Iran's response to a proposal that includes ending the nuclear program, opening the strait, limiting ballistic missiles, and sanctions relief. The response that Energy Secretary Wright said was coming very soon this morning. The response that the Qatar Prime Minister flew to Miami to discuss with Rubio and Witkoff and Vance yesterday. The response that every oil market on Earth has been pricing in for 48 hours. It arrives at the State Department at 8:14 and 09 seconds on day 81 of the war. At 8:14 and 09 seconds, Brigadier General Hassan Mohammadi receives a different transmission, not a diplomatic cable, an operational order from the IRGC Strategic Operations Center. The order that was prepared 4 hours ago when Mohammadi first learned through internal channels that Iran's response to the American proposal would be transmitted at 8:14 in the morning. An operational order that Mohammadi did not request and did not initiate but received because he is the commander of IRGC Naval District 3, and the operational order requires a Naval District 3 asset. The order activates 3 attack elements simultaneously. 23 IRGC fast attack craft departing Bandar Abbas and Qeshm Island. 2 F-14 Tomcats already airborne on bearing 031 since 7:58 in the morning. 1 Noor coastal missile battery pre-warming since 4:14 in the morning when the operational planning began. All 3 targeting USS Abraham Lincoln in the Central Gulf. All 3 timed to arrive at the Lincoln's position at 8:44 in the morning, 30 minutes after Iran's diplomatic response reaches Washington. The attack is not Mohammadi's plan. Mohammadi is reading the operational order the same way USS Gonzalez's commander Elena Park is reading her passive sensor display at 8:14 in the morning. With recognition, she has been watching the attack build since 7:14 in the morning, not from passive sensor anomalies or acoustic contacts or pre-launch emissions. From a signals intelligence intercept she received at 7:14 that told her everything she needed to know. The intercept contained one sentence from the IRGC Strategic Operations Center internal planning channel. When the response transmits, we demonstrate that the response was transmitted from a position of strength. 7 words. When the response transmits, she flagged the intercept at 7:16, filed a report at 7:19. It came back at 7:44. Logged and noted. Signals intelligence assessment ongoing. Continue monitoring. She has been continuing monitoring for 58 minutes. At 8:11 in the morning, she stops monitoring and starts transmitting directly to Callaway. Sir, I have a signals intelligence intercept from 7:14 this morning from the IRGC Strategic Operations Center planning channel. One sentence. When the response transmits, we demonstrate that the response was transmitted from a position of strength. Sir, the response transmits at 8:14. Whatever demonstration they planned activates at 8:14. I have 23 fast attack departures from Bandar Abbas and Keshem Islands since 7:58. 2 F-14 thermal contacts bearing 031 running cold since 7:58. Nor pre-launch emission on bearing 031 active since 7:44. This is a coordinated 3-axis attack on USS Abraham Lincoln. Time to activate the moment Iran's diplomatic response reaches Washington. The attack is designed to make the response read differently. A response transmitted while the carrier is under attack says something different than a response transmitted in silence. I filed a report at 7:19. It came back logged and noted. I am not filing a second report. I am transmitting directly because the response transmits in 3 minutes and I have 58 minutes of solution building ready, and 3 minutes is enough time if Callaway authorizes now. Callaway reads it in 5 seconds. He picks up CENTCOM at 8:11 and 44 seconds. Sir, read what Gonzalez just sent me. Read the signals intelligence intercept. Read it now. CENTCOM reads it in 11 seconds. The response comes back in 22 seconds. Weapons free. Full engagement authority. Protect the Lincoln, Callaway. Transmits to the formation circuit at 8:12 and 09 seconds. All strike group units, this is Lincoln actual. Full weapons free. 3-axis attack inbound, time to the diplomatic response transmission at 8:14. 23 fast attack contacts 2-axis. 2 F-14 thermal contacts bearing 031. Nor coastal battery warming bearing 031. All 3 time to activate at 8:14. Gonzalez has engagement solutions built since 7:44. Cap section activate now. All units execute. The cap section has been at 38,000 feet since 8 o'clock in the morning.